What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Limited Resources. This is episode number 489. My name is Marshall. I'm one of your Limited Resources, and joining me on the bed, staring at me, it's Luis Scott-Vargas. Luis, where are we, London?
We are in London. The Pro Tour has, not concluded for everyone. The top 8 is tomorrow, but it is unfortunately concluded for me. There will be no hat trick this time.
You had
around.
a solid performance.
Yeah, I went 10-6. I would say like a win away from a performance I'm generally happy with, but a win better than a performance I'll be unhappy with. So kind of right in the middle there.
You did ask to run average just once.
Yeah, but when I say
slightly below,
when I say run average, I don't really mean run average.
All right, so welcome along. We are here for, of course, the Rare and Mythic set review show for War of the Spark, and we are going to waste no time getting into it. We're going to be covering the grading policy that we use, and then getting right into the cards. But first, of course, got to mention our sponsor, ChannelFireball.com. If you need War of the Spark, that is where you should go. You can head over to CFB, get your pre-order/order on, depending on when you're listening to this podcast, and they're going to get it shipped out to you quickly. Of course, that will get you War of the Spark in your grubby little hands, and then you can draft it with your friends. Or if you just need singles, you can order those separately as well. It's up to you. Either way you do it, Channel Fireball is where you want to go to get War of the Spark or any other cards that you need. And while you're there, check out the awesome free content. You know, LR is only one piece of the puzzle on Channel Fireball. There's also videos and articles by some of the best players in the world, and you can use those to help you get better, or even just some entertainment. You know, throw it on the monitor while you're getting some work done, or maybe on your phone while you're just hanging out, and you can watch people play, talk about, read. You can even listen to some of the articles in audio form if that's easier for you, and of course, this podcast too. If you want to support the podcast directly, by the way, Patreon's where you want to go for that. Patreon.com/limitedresources. And that's the way to give back to the show directly. We really appreciate each and every one of you that takes the time to do so. Patreon is a really cool site where you can give back to the creators that help brighten your day. And if we are one of those creators, well, that's where you can go. And thank you for checking it out if you do so. Okay, let's get into it. First things first. Luis, do you want me to read this, or do you have it up? Twitter up.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that for now?
Yeah, okay. So here's the grading. This is the grading scale. How about you tell them what we use the grading scale for? Why it's here?
So the reason we have grades for the cards is, as we say, it's a punctuation on the discussion of the cards. Because what's important when we talk about these cards is kind of the context of the card, why it's good, how it can be used, and that's what you're going to get out of our description and comments of the cards. The grading scale is just a way to kind of give those contents a place to land at the end of it. So when we talk a bunch about a card and it sounds like we might not like it, then we give it a B, that means it's actually a pretty good card regardless. I would not recommend just looking at the grades, but the grades can also be useful.
Yeah, it's meant to be a starting point for you. Here's how we use the grades. The A's are your bombs, the game winners. The cards that are good in many situations, particularly when you're behind, they're often the best cards in the set or hyper-efficient removal spells. From the last set, cards like Ethereal Absolution and Skargan Hellkite, and little spoiler here, we're going to be talking about a lot of A's today. B's are cards that actively pull you towards their colors. They're often headliners for a set or go-to cards. They're reasons to be in a color or color pair guild. Often solid removal will fall in this category. Cards like Shark to Crab, Senate Guild Mage, Depose, Deploy, Skewer the Critics, and Trollbred Guardian are in the B range. C's are your playables. They're the pawns of Limited, the bread and butter, the cards that you will see the most often. They're usually commons as well. So it's kind of interesting because the rares and mythics don't fall in that super often. They're fairly interchangeable, but you do need them to make your deck. And also kind of medium removal fits here, as well as many combat tricks. Cards like Skitter Eel, Forbidding Spirit, Azorius, Knight Arbiter. D are your sometimes playable. You prefer to not run them though. Mediocre to junky cards. Maybe they're too situational, or maybe they have a high setup cost. And they make the cut. You're not really thrilled with it. Often bad removal goes here too. Cards like Rumbling Ruin, Catacomb Crocodile, and Humongulous. The F's are your unplayable in virtually all scenarios. We use it as a way to say this is an unplayable. There really is almost no cards that are truly unplayable. You could always come up with some weird situation, but the point of a set review like this is to get a much more broad strokes look, and there are plenty of unplayables in each set. Card like Font of Agonies or Ceruli Caretaker that just never really should be in your deck. Then there's also, of course, sideboard grade cards that are rarely, if ever, make the main deck, but can be very powerful out of the sideboard. We'll give those a separate grade since they'd either be an A or a B or an F, depending on the matchup or where they're going to come in. Cards like Sagittarius Volley and Exposed to Daylight. And then there's build-arounds, and these are important for the rare show as well. These are cards that typically are not good enough on their own, but if you build around them properly, they can be really, really great. In fact, some of the most powerful cards in the set are often build-arounds, cards like High Alert and Cavalcade of Calamity. Let's get into the cards now. We're going to start with white once again. And then are we going to remember Karn and Ugin?
Let's just do Karn and Ugin to start with.
All right, let's just start off with Karn and Ugin. First one is Karn, the Great Creator. And brace yourself, by the way, this is going to be a pretty in-depth set review here because there's so many Planeswalkers, lots of abilities and stuff. First one right off the bat.
Yeah, we're going to be going at this till 2, 3 in the morning.
Man, please don't say that. It's so late here. But still, I want to get a good show out the door. And so we're going to make sure we take our time with the cards that need it. This is Karn, the Great Creator, 4 colorless or 4 generic mana for a 5 loyalty Planeswalker at rare. Activated abilities of artifacts your opponents control can't be activated. This will come up almost never, but there's a few cards.
Basically 0, yeah.
This does not preclude mana abilities.
It does.
It does.
Yeah. It shuts off their fire mines.
That's what I mean. It actually doesn't say unless they're mana abilities.
Yeah, sorry.
It does shut those down.
It does.
Yeah. +1. Until your next turn, up to 1 target non-creature artifact becomes an artifact creature with power toughness. Bless you, each equal to its converted mana cost. Not great. Unlimited -2. You may choose an artifact card you own from outside the game or in Exile. Reveal that card and put it into your hand. What is this card even good? This seems bad to me.
So
I need an artifact on the battlefield for it to do anything or one in Exile or outside the game.
Karn's complicated. The short answer is it's an F.
Okay.
But the slightly longer answer is do not try this at home. But, and here's the but. If you had a bunch of artifacts that you drafted, but they're mediocre, so we're talking 4 mana, 2/3 flyers like Saheeli Skywing or
Silverwing?
Silverwing, sure. And Iron Bully or cards that you would not want to play in your deck or don't care whether you play in your deck. And you have Planeswalker synergies. And you end up in a spot where like for example, the Bolas's Monument, the 6 mana, your opponent's spells cost 2 more. Mm-hmm. You don't really want to draw any of these cards, but you could put a Karn in your deck and it can draw those cards and it can turn them then into giant artifacts. It's not good, but I suspect after having played the format, I'll play Karn like once or twice and find it to be passable in those very, very specific circumstances. Mm-hmm. For the most part, you can say it's an F and you can basically never draft it in mind. But if you kind of get a couple last pick or near last pick artifacts and you stumble across a Karn, which no one's ever really going to take unless they just are trying to take a rare. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it can be played. This is something we theorized about, at least. None of us have ever tried it.
Okay. Karn the Great Creator gets an F and probably isn't going to be a big factor in the format. Now, the next card, very good card. Ugin the Ineffable, 6 mana for a 4 loyalty legendary Ugin at rare. And that, of course, means, whenever we see cards at this power level that are colorless, you're going to get them in your sealed pools. They're going to be easy first picks, that kind of thing because of that. So colorless spells you cast cost 2 less to cast.
Throwaway.
Yeah. But here's the good stuff. 4 loyalty +1. Exile the top card of your library face down and look at it. Create a 2/2 colorless spirit creature token. When that token leaves the battlefield, you put the exile card in your hand.
So it makes a 2/2 every turn, and each 2/2
Plussing.
Yes, plussing. And each 2/2 when it dies, you draw a card, essentially.
Yeah. That is fantastic.
Very good.
And then the -3 ability is also excellent. Destroy target permanent that's 1 or more colors.
Yeah, that is also very relevant.
So if you really need to, you can -3 to kill something and keep the empty board and then start pumping out the 2/2s. And if you're at parity or ahead, you can just start making 2/2s and win the game.
Ugin was our consensus best pick 1, pack 1 in draft because it's colorless, so you always play it.
Yeah.
This card's absurd. It's better than any common or uncommon by a lot.
Yep. Ugin the Ineffable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did have a joke lined up for the booth that I decided not to run, Luis, but...
What was it?
I don't want to
Let's just say Ugin's not ineffable. Yeah. Marshall definitely.
Yeah, that was the joke.
Ugin gets an A.
A for Ugin.
Or A+, actually.
Sure. Just one of the best cards in the set. Again, colorless, leaning on colorless. Okay, that moves us to white. First, there's a cycle of cards called the Finales, and each color got one. This one is, of course, for white. It's called Finale of Glory, and it is one of the better ones. It's white X for a sorcery at Mythic. They're all Mythic. Create X 2/2 white soldier creature tokens with vigilance. So let's just pause right there because they all have this extra clause that we really don't need to spend too much time on.
Which is if X is 10 or more, do something ridiculous and end the game.
Yeah, and the game does end. In this case, you also get that many 4/4 Sarah Angels, 4/4 white flying angel tokens with flying and vigilance. But let's focus on that first sentence because it is so rare that you have 12 mana. I mean, that's 3/4 of all your lands. Create X 2/2 vigilant soldiers. So what are we looking at here? For 4 mana, I get 2 2/2s. For 5, I get 3. That's nice. 6 is like really good.
Yeah.
This thing tends to scale super well with the game. Finale of Glory looks absolutely fantastic to me.
Oh, top 5 cards in the set.
Yeah.
Basically, you're looking to cast this at 6 or more. Mm-hmm. But here's what's so powerful is if you're mana screwed, you can cast it for 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And at 2, it's Call the Cavalry, passable. At 3, it's starting to get pretty good.
Yeah, it's already good.
And at 4 or more, it's just absurd.
Yeah.
It's just an obscene card just because it puts so much power and toughness into play. Like, think about it this way. For 5 mana, you get 6/6 worth of stats.
Yeah.
That's very good. That's above rate. Yeah. For 6 mana, you get 8/8 worth of stats, and it just keeps going from there.
Yeah. So A for Finale of Glory.
An A for Finale of Glory.
Yep. Next is Gideon Blackblade. This is a 1 white for a 4 loyalty Gideon, also at Mythic Rare. So right now, that's 3 mana for foil loyalty. That's already pretty good. As long as it's your turn, Gideon Blackblade is a 4/4 human soldier creature with indestructible that's still a planeswalker. You prevent all damage that would be dealt to Gideon Blackblade during your turn. That's to get around losing loyalty for damage. Because it's already indestructible anyway. +1. Up to 1 target creature you control gains your choice of vigilance, lifelink, or indestructible until end of turn. -6 exile target non-land permanent. So when I read this, the +1 is a minor bump, right? It matters, but it's a minor bump. But boy, you get a 4/4 indestructible for 3 mana. Hello. Yeah.
So note a couple notes. One is that the +1 doesn't last through your next turn. Some planeswalkers have abilities that do that. Gideon does not. So you can't make your creature indestructible, then block with it on their turn as indestructible. And then the other note is that, yes, it's a 3 mana 4/4, but it's also a 3 mana 4/4
vigilance or lifelink.
Right. It can target itself with all these abilities. However, it doesn't defend itself. So if you play Gideon and your opponent has a 3/3 out, they can just immediately attack it down to 2. And then the -6 is pretty relevant as well. That's just a good ability.
Yeah, it's just a good ability.
So Gideon's good. It's a bomb. I mean, I would take Gideon over every common or uncommon. It's not at the same level quite as like, a Finale or Mugen or what have you, just because it does skew aggressive. Like you want to be aggressive. Yeah. Gideon in a control deck is not that impressive because it doesn't help you stabilize at all. But if you're on the play and have 2 drop into Gideon, you're just going to win almost all those games.
Yeah. So B+ for Gideon Blackblade?
I think it might get an A-.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't protect itself at all. I don't have it in that full-on crazy bomb, but this is absurdly efficient and
it's a great card.
Only 3 mana. So A- for Gideon Blackblade. Boy, we are handing out A's like it is Halloween here.
Yeah, and if you think it's just that we are kind of excited and want to just throw out a bunch of cards, no, we're actually at a cycle where I've played way more with these cards than I would normally have done in a set review just because of the cadence of how the set released, where I've done a bunch of drafts and tested with my team and had our limited meetings. So it's funny that we actually are more informed this time around, and yet we're still tossing out the A's like they're going out of style.
Seriously, here's another one. God Eternal Oketra. This is 3 white for a 3/6 legendary zombie god, again at Mythic Rare, with double strike.
Okay, so it's better than a 6/6. It's a 3/6 that has upside.
Yes, 3/6 with upside. And also, by the way, 6 toughness is a lot. This is very difficult to get into combat with. Whenever you cast a creature spell, the thing that you do the most often in Limited anyway, you get a 4/4 zombie warrior creature token with vigilance.
Yeah.
Okay. And then all of the God Eternals have this extra clause. If they die or put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library 3rd from the top. So they're unkillable. This one is an absolutely amazing stats for 5 mana, and it also rewards you for doing the thing that you want to do with the thing that you want anyway.
Yes. So Oketra's obscene. To get on my soapbox a little bit, I really dislike the exile part of the exile clause, of the way the gods come back, because the whole kind of point of the exile zone is that things that go to exile stay in exile. And the fact that there's a bunch of removal spells at exile, that's your way around indestructible or whatever.
Yeah.
That's your way around of killing things that are hard to kill. if these gods just triggered when they died, that'd be one thing. The fact they triggered from Exile, I don't like it. It feels hacky to me.
It used to be removed from the game entirely.
Yes,
like that was supposed to be the way to have it just be gone. Now it's just like feels like it's another zone if they do this.
Also, I really don't like that the common and uncommon removal can't even come close to dealing with the gods. Like Oketra's an unbeatable bomb. If she was just no return text at all, just 5 mana, essentially 6/6 that plays a 4/4 every time you play a creature, that'd be an obscene card, one of the best in the set. The fact is, even if you have a removal spell, and even if that removal spell exiles, she just comes back in a couple turns.
It's absurd.
So, anyways, Oketra's an A+. Draft Oketra, play Oketra, you'd be happy.
One other note is that it's particularly unfortunate in this set because, okay, in Oketra's case, this isn't relevant, but for the other ones, there's also this lack of pacifisms, which would have been able to lock out some of these. Oketra would have still just spit out a bunch of zombies. Okay, A+ for God Eternal Oketra. Finally, a not A. Ignite the Beacon, 4 and a white for an instant rare. Search your library for up to 2 Planeswalker cards, reveal them, put them in your hand, then shuffle your library. So, first things first, I don't like this card at face value. So, what I'm looking for immediately is, what are the scenarios where I do want to play this? Because it's not just when I happen to have 2 Planeswalkers, right?
No.
Do I need 2 great Planeswalkers? Do I even want to run it in that scenario?
So, basically, this is a build-around, but kind of like a build-around C, because what happens is you can't play it with just 2 Planeswalkers generally, because if you draw 1, this turns into a 5-mana draw 1 card. Mm-hmm. Unless you have just off the hook, like Liliana Ugin type deals. Mm-hmm. Usually where you'll want to play this card, which isn't often, is when you have, I would say 3 to 4 to 5 Planeswalkers, which is doable in this set. And one of them is pretty good and the rest are decent.
I see. You have an Ugin and then a bunch of the uncommon ones. But even then,
you have to be a deck that wants a 5-mana draw spell, which is what this is.
Yeah.
So I would say you're unlikely to really want to play this card. But every now and then it's good. And also it does curve into Liliana or Ugin, and those cards are very hard to beat.
Yeah, that's true. And they help you catch back up if you did fall a little behind from casting Ignite the Beacon. So we'll call it build around.
I would say that
C+.
It gets a build around C.
Okay, build around C for Ignite the Beacon. Next is Parry Hylian 2. I don't even know what Parry Hylian 1 is, but this is 6 white for a legendary artifact vehicle. It's rare. It's a 5/5 flying first strike vigilance. Whenever it attacks, you create 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are also attacking. So the big question is, what does it take to crew this thing? And it happens to be pretty big. It's crew 4. But that's actually not the limiting factor here, right? It's the casting cost.
Yeah, the fact that it costs 8 mana.
Yeah. So right off the bat, I'm tempted to give this a very low grade based on the fact that it's 8 mana. Though I will say, if you get to attack with it, it feels like it'd be pretty difficult to lose.
So Parry Hylian isn't really a white card insofar as most white decks aren't going to be interested, because there aren't that many good white control decks. Black-white's probably the closest. And white-green aggro certainly doesn't want it, nor does white-red. Where I like Parry Hylian, where I think it's playable, is in the 5-color green deck, where you have a lot of mana accelerants. You're playing some 20-21 mana sources with your Centaur Nurtures and your Mana Geodes and what have you. And then you end up casting a late Parry Hylian and using it to close out the game. Because it is a powerful card.
It is very powerful.
I've seen a lot of games go near decking because these decks need win conditions. Mm-hmm. So it is not a good card, and it's a card you should take late, but Parry Hylian is a build-around. Think about it as a build-around finisher for a 5-color green deck, or a solid sealed card. Both those things are quite relevant. So under those constraints, I would give Parry Hylian probably a build-around C+.
Yeah, it's still a clunky, expensive card, but yeah, build-around C+, for Parry Hylian 2. Next is Ravnica at War. It's 3 and a white for a sorcery. It's rare. Exile all multicolored permanents.
No, I haven't been too impressed with this card.
No, I think it feels very narrow.
It's just a sideboard card.
Yeah. When would you bring it in? Against a bunch of Planeswalkers?
You just need to see your opponent with probably 5 or 6 gold permanents that are good. Yeah. Which is really almost never going to happen.
And you having not too many yourself?
And you don't want too many. Though you could have a couple, because if you know this card's in your hand or deck, you can sometimes maneuver. But
okay. So D for Ravnica at War?
Just like a sideboard grade, yeah.
Okay. Next is called Single Combat. It's 3 white for a sorcery at rare. It says each player chooses a creature or planeswalker and then sacrifices the rest. Players can't cast creature or planeswalker spells until the end of your next turn. So you get to keep 1, not of each.
No, just 1 total, which makes it kind of awkward for your opponent because you're the one who gets to attack. So imagine that they have a good planeswalker and some creatures, and you have some creatures. If you cast this, if they keep the Planeswalker, whatever creature you keep is going to get to attack that Planeswalker immediately. Mm-hmm. I think that this card is good, but it's a little hard to use.
Yeah.
You want it for times when the board gets a little stalled, and you want it more in decks that have more spells than permanents, because that way you can take advantage of the clause on it where you cast this, you both go down to your best thing. On their next turn, they just can't do anything because it locks them out of casting creatures or Planeswalkers. On your next turn, you are also locked out, but if you have Tamiyo's Epiphanies or other good spells to cast, you can just do those instead.
You can break the synergy if they have more creatures and or Planeswalkers than you do. Like, let's say you just have one really good thing and they have 5. I mean, you are getting ahead there.
Yeah, and if you have single combat, you can set it up by trying to stabilize with something big because it doesn't kill your big thing. So you stabilize a bit behind a 5/5, and maybe you slow roll the creatures in your hand, and then you play this.
The setup cost is pretty high on it, a little finicky.
Yeah, I don't think the card is fantastic, but I think it's powerful.
Yeah, it does seem powerful.
I would give single combat a C+, probably.
Okay, C+ for single combat. Next is Tomic, Distinguished Advocate. It's white for a 2/3 legendary creature, human advisor with flying. And that's actually the relevant text here for the most part on Tomic. It's a 2/3 flyer for 2. Quite strong in a white-based deck. It has a lot of extra text, lands on the battlefield, and land cards in your graveyards can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. Your opponents can't play land cards from graveyards. So, whatever. For our purposes, that's trinket text. But Tomic is a solid card. Probably B-. That is, like, if you go plains Tomic, it's like, oh crap, that thing's gonna get in for a lot.
It can sometimes screw your opponent because they can't cast New Horizons on their land.
They can't?
No. You play Tomic and they can't target lands.
Lands on the battlefield can't be the targets of spells or abilities your opponents control. LOL.
Yeah. So watch out for that.
Right. Okay.
But for the most part, this is just white 2/3 flyer, which is a good card. Yeah. I mean, I would give Tomic a B-.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to blue. First up, commence the end game.
Oh yes, I feel the end game will be commenced.
Yeah, I feel like you need to say that.
Like when I get back, I'm gonna be watching Avengers, which I assume is what you mean.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're not going to commence that just yet. 4 blue for an instant at rare. This spell can't be countered. You draw 2 cards, then amass X, where X is the number of cards in your hand.
So 6 mana instant, draw 2, and then make like a 5/5/6/6. Sometimes just like a 4/4, but. Either way, it's a huge flash mole drifter.
Yes.
And it can't be countered. So, commence the end game is awesome. Better than any common or uncommon, which is an important bar. You'll hear me say that a lot. And the reason it's important is because once you know that, if you open one of these rares, you don't have to worry about where it fits on the scale. And the ones that are clearly above are good to know.
Yep. And this one is clearly that. Can I just give it an A?
Yeah, you can give Commence the Endgame a flat A.
Yeah, just an A for Commence the Endgame. Next is Fibble Fit the Lost, 1 and a blue for a 1/1 legendary homunculus at rare. When Fibble Fit the Lost enters the battlefield, you draw a card. If it entered from your library or was cast from your library, you draw 2 cards instead. And whenever it becomes a target of a spell, shuffle it into your library.
Fibble Fit is a meme card, but it's actually good.
It's actually good, right?
Well, it's just an Elvish Visionary.
Yeah.
And if in a pinch, you can target it to shuffle it back into your deck, which doesn't come up too often, but I have seen it happen. You point 1 point from Chandra's Pyrohelix at Fibble Fit just to shuffle Fibble Fit back in.
I like it.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'm in. I wouldn't pick this card particularly highly. No, it's probably a C.
You got to go for the Vivian Zarkbow combo to get your 2 cards out of it.
Oh, is that one of the ways you can get it in with that? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I would give Fibble Fit a C+.
C+ for Fibble Fit the Lost. Next is Finale of Revelation. So here's the blue finale. It's blue X for a sorcery again at Mythic. Draw X cards. Again, there's more text and I'll read it, but that's what you should focus on when you think of it. If X is 10 or more, instead shuffle your graveyard into your library, draw X cards, and untap up to 5 lands. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game, and you exile it. That's pretty cool. But the truth is, how good are we talking? Because normally, you and I, we're a fan of a divination, right? So that's 3 mana for 2 cards, but here 3 mana is 1 card. 4 mana, 2 cards, but you have this high end, right? Where you can get up to 6 or 7 mana and start drawing a bunch of cards. So, I don't know. I like the high end of it.
This is basically a finisher. It's not as good as Commence the Endgame because that kind of gets you back on the board by making this giant creature. This, you just spend ideally 6 or 7 mana, but you'll probably win the game the next turn or 2. if your opponent doesn't kill you because you spent 6 or 7 mana on something that does not affect the board. I do like this card. It's not a bomb like some of these other bombs, but it's a really good blue like control card to kind of base a deck around.
Yeah, this does seem like it can really finish off the game. Do you give it a B for Finale of Revelation, or is it better? I would give
Finale of Revelation a B+.
Okay, you do like it that much. Be careful putting these type of cards in your deck. You can't have too many of them, or you will just lose. Next is
I just all I heard is you can't have too many of them.
God Eternal Calfnet is 2 blue for a 4/5 flying legendary zombie god. Great. You may reveal the first card you draw each turn as you draw it. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery card this way, copy that card and you may cast the copy. That copy costs 2 less to cast, and then it has the same clause that if it gets in the graveyard or exile, you can put it third from the top. What is going on here? If it's an instant or sorcery, you can reveal it and copy it, but it's not a thing. Like, what is a...
So what happens is, let's say you draw Obnixilus's Cruelty.
Yeah.
It costs 2 less because of the ability, so you can pay 1 mana, cast an Obnixilus's Cruelty on your opponent's creature, and you still have the one in your hand because it just copies it.
So it puts a copy on the stack.
Right.
Or if you pay.
Yeah, so Calfnet's basically a 4-mana, 4/5 flyer with multiple upsides, so I would slam Calfnet just like every other God Eternal.
Just another A.
Yep.
These cards are busted. Next is Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. This is the rare Jace for the set. It's 1 blue, so a little tough on the mana. You get a 4 loyalty Jace at rare. Static ability. If you would draw a card while your library has no cards in it, you win the game instead. +1, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard and you draw a card. So that's... Do you target them or you?
So generally with Jace, I've been targeting my opponent, and here's why. If you cast Jace, the whole goal with Jace, right, is if written on the card, if you deck yourself, you win the game.
Yeah.
So you'd think you'd want to target Jace or yourself with Jace. But the reason I like targeting my opponent is if Jace lives, you almost always win anyway because you're drawing 2 cards a turn.
Yeah.
And if you target yourself a few times, then they kill Jace before you're able to actually finish them off, you might end up with like 6 cards in your deck and have a hard time closing out the game.
Yeah, because you're drawing 1 and milling 1, so it's actually 3 cards off of you per activation.
Basically, the only time I target myself with Jace is when I have a very high confidence Jace is going to live. Like maybe it's the turn before the ultimate. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to protect Jace that turn. Otherwise, I'd recommend targeting your opponent under the kind of assumption that if Jace ends up living, you're going to win. Because... one thing I want to note, because we're always pretty high on milling ourselves with effects like this, this format comes to decking frequently.
Yes, I've seen that many times.
People just run out of ways to close out the game to beat their opponent. And if you milled yourself for 4 or 6, you might be among that crowd. Not because it'll mill your win conditions necessarily, but because it might just not leave you with enough time to finish the game.
Yeah, Jace has a -8 as well. It lets you draw 7 cards. Then if your library has no cards in it, you win the game.
Yeah.
I like Jace a lot. I mean, this is kind of a classic.
Jace is great.
Yeah.
If Jace didn't cost 1 blue, I think Jace would probably be an A. As it stands, I actually think Jace is an A- still.
Yeah, I agree. A- for Jace, Wielder of Mysteries. Narcissist Reversal is next. It's blue for an instant at rare. Copy target instant or sorcery spell, then return it to its owner's hand. You may choose new targets for the copy.
Yeah, I do not like this card. It just is too situational because basically... when the whole payoff is they spend their mana for an expensive removal spell, you remand it, and instead of drawing a card like remand normally does, this lets you just play that spell on their creature.
But they get it back.
Yeah, and they get that spell back. So sure, that's exciting because you're kind of getting a 1.5 for 1 where you cast a removal spell and bounce their removal spell back with, and it had no effect. But the problem with a card like this is what happens when they don't play a removal spell or a good spell? Then you just have this card rot in your hand. So when it does work, I want it to be devastating, and it's not really.
No. Now, but can you do it on your own spells? Copy target instant or sorcery spell?
You could. It's pretty clunky, though, because let's say you
get it back,
spend 3 mana, and then you play 2 more to cast this, and then you end up bouncing the original one back and casting this. So, Narcissist needs to work on our efficiency.
All right, so Narcissist Reversal is going to be...
I think like a D.
Okay.
I would cite it in if I had enough options.
Silent Submersible. Looks like our first... What are those stupid things
Submarine?
called? Yeah, submarine. Thank you. Blue for a 2/3 vehicle at rare. When Silent Submersible deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, you draw a card, which is sweet, and it has crew 2.
I'm really disappointed by this card.
Yeah, same.
It has no
evasion.
And to be clear, I'm not even talking about power level. it's a submarine. Those are really cool.
Yeah,
This is their first submarine. And this one has no evasion. It just sits on top of the land like everything else. Like, if this card was made a long time ago, it'd certainly have Island Walk.
Yes, absolutely. But they don't do that
even
anymore.
without that, like, can only be blocked by blue creatures, perhaps? Like, I don't know. It's just a flavor-wise disappointment. Power level-wise, nothing special here. It's 2/3 that could just get blocked.
I'm just picturing a submarine just laying on the ground.
Yeah, it's just that's how effective this card is.
Yeah. So what is it? A C?
It's a C. I mean, you can just put it in. If blue isn't a big issue, you're playing 9 or 10 islands in your deck. This card's fine.
You can play it. Crew 2 is a little much, but Silent Submersible gets a C. Next is Spark Double. This one's good. It's 3 and a blue for a 0/0 creature illusion, and this is a clone. This is a riff on clone. You may have Spark Double enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature or planeswalker you control, except it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, an additional loyalty counter on if it's a planeswalker, and it isn't legendary if that permanent is legendary. Kind of gives you everything you want. It lets you copy a creature or planeswalker and takes away all the things you were worried about and gives it a +1/+1 to whatever it has.
Yeah, Spark Double is very good.
Mm-hmm.
Just the flexibility here is awesome. Copying almost any creature is almost by definition going to be efficient because you're getting +1/+1 and you're only spending 4 when normally you'd want to copy 5s or 6s if you could. But even copying like Lazotep Reaver and just, making a 2/3 that makes a 1/1, like that's still just pretty good. I would give Spark Double an A-. I think Spark Double is just a good early pick.
Yeah, I'm always really high on these clones. They tend to overperform by quite a bit. Okay, that's going to do it for blue. All right, so here's black, where we have first up is Bolsa Citadel. Now, this is a little bit of a sleeper here. 3 black for a legendary artifact at rare. And it's weird. You can look at the top card of your library anytime. Okay, fine. You may play the top card of your library. Not cast, but play. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its converted mana cost rather than pay its mana cost. And you can tap it and sacrifice 10 non-land permanents to have an opponent lose 10 life. This card looks like total jank, and I think it's actually pretty good.
It's very good.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Yeah, so Bolsa Citadel is a build around in the such that you really need to build your deck to take advantage of it, but there's a couple ways to do that. First of all is play like green-black or white-black life gain. And there's Centaur Nurture in green, Leyline Prowler gives you some life, white has some life linker, some other ways to gain life. And then basically you want to play Bolsa Citadel with a relatively high life total, like 15 plus. At which point you can play a couple spells. Your other spells, the cards in your deck gain you more life, and you just keep going from there. Also, lands don't cost you life.
Right.
So this card is really powerful. And eventually you nug them, but you don't even necessarily need that. Just when you're playing 2 to 4 spells a turn, it becomes quite dangerous.
It's just interesting because this looks like the type of card that would lock you out. Like, they would not let you cast other...
But you also just draw your card for the
cards
turn.
and play it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do the thing.
So, and then the other way to use this is to play an aggressive deck and just have this as your high end, because most of the time when you're playing aggro, your life total is not as much of an issue.
And you're cheaper cards.
Right. You're playing against these like control decks and you're just at 20, but they're trying to stabilize the game, and you play Citadel and play 2 or 3 spells.
Okay, so I'm leaning on you for the grade here, because this card, I have never had it on the battlefield yet, so I just have a really hard time figuring out.
I think it's a B+.
Okay, it's really hard to cast.
It's and in the right deck, it's like an A.
Okay.
It's almost unbeatable. Imagine you're playing like a mid-range or control deck, and you're just like doing your thing, and your opponent's like, oh, play a Mana Geode, oh, play a Centaur Nurture, I'm at 23, and you're just like setting up, playing one of your Planeswalkers, making a creature, and then on turn 5 or 6, they're just like, Bolsa Citadel, play a 2-drop, play a 4-drop, play a 5-drop, play a 4-drop. And it's like, okay,
and they're still at 10 life.
Yeah, they're at 10, but they just played 11 mana, 13 mana worth of things, and you're just like, well, I'm going to lose really badly now.
Yeah, and like next turn. Okay. B+ for Bolsa Citadel. Once somebody said
right
Future
deck.
Sight, they had me.
Yeah.
I just didn't quite.
In the right deck, it's an A. So Bolsa Citadel is one of, I don't know how underrated it's going to be if we just talked about how good it is, but it did start underrated.
Definitely. It's too weird to just stand out as good. Next is Command the Dread Horde. This is 4 black for a sorcery at rare. Choose any number of target creature and or planeswalker cards in graveyards. Command the Dread Horde deals damage equal to the total of converted mana cost of those spells. You put them onto the battlefield under your control.
This is so weird. This card is a lot like Bolsa Citadel. It's a 6-mana black spell that draws you a bunch of cards and you lose a bunch of life.
Yeah, it is actually like that. It's a one-shot, but...
And the things I said for Citadel kind of hold true for Command the Dread Horde. it's not as good because Bolsa Citadel doesn't really require much but being at a high life total, whereas Command actually requires the graveyards to be full. But as high-end in like a red-black removal deck, this card is excellent. I saw both Alex Hayne and Josh Utter-Layton today at the Pro Tour, go 2-1 or 3-0 with their red-black decks, where they're just like, kill your thing, kill your thing, kill your thing, Dread Horde, take 10, but now I have 4 things in play.
Yeah, that's just a huge swing on both sides.
And you can get back stuff from your graveyard or your opponent's graveyard. There's also a Mondo combo of Gideon's Sacrifice and then Dread Horde everything back, and Gideon's Sacrifice stops the damage.
That's sweet.
It's also very flavorful. Gideon sacrificed himself so that Liliana could command the Dread Horde or something like that. Okay. Is that a story spoiler? I don't even know the story.
Oh, this actually is Spotlight Act 3. The card is.
Oh, there we go.
That might be happening on here, but so what do we give Command the Dread Horde? A B plus? A B?
I think it's more like a B because it takes a little bit more work than Bolsa Citadel, but it's still a very good high end. And it's the kind of card, I love having cards like this in my deck where your opponent thinks that they cannot lose the game because you're playing black-red and they've just killed your first bunch of plays, but they're not pressuring you. And then you just like play this and put 5 things into play.
That is a huge swing.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Next is Deliver Unto Evil. 2 and a black for a sorcery at rare. Choose up to 4 target cards in your graveyard. If you control a Bolas Planeswalker, return those cards to your hand. Otherwise, an opponent chooses 2 of them. Leave the chosen cards in your graveyard and put the rest into your hand. Then exile Deliver Unto Evil. Sounds awful.
It's not.
Really? It's 4 cards and you get the 2 that you don't want?
Yeah. So it's basically like a divination, but you only get powerful cards off it.
Why? Because you always have powerful cards in your graveyard?
The key is playing one of these long game decks and filling your graveyard where, imagine it's like turn 7 or 8 or 9 and your graveyard has a bunch of removal and a couple, like a good Planeswalker and maybe some other a good card.
A creature.
And you're like, okay, target, I'll target my Angrath, my Obnixus's Cruelty, my, Spark Harvest, and my
Herald of the Dread Horde.
Yeah, sure, Herald of the Dread Horde. Your opponent's going to give you back 2 good cards.
Okay.
Like,
I'm not in love, but okay.
In Sealed, I would almost always run this. And in Draft, if I can draft a control deck, particularly one with a lot of removal spells, this card's very good.
Okay. Late game.
It is the late game.
I like that it only costs 3, though, because you could actually cast one of those spells.
A lot of these cards look like they're slanted towards the late game, and that's just because a lot of these decks go pretty long. This format has a lot of haymakers going back and forth, and getting a second bite at them is really, really good. Look, in a deck that has a couple good Planeswalkers and a couple good creatures, plus other random creatures, I'd rather have Aid the Fallen. Raised dead a creature and a Planeswalker.
Much better to me.
But Deliver Unto Evil is the kind of card that you can certainly play in these decks, and it is a way to have a little bit of extra gas.
Draw 2 okay spells. You're never getting the 2 good stuff.
You're not getting the 2 best, but
right.
Imagine your graveyard has 5 or 6 good cards. You're going to get 2 of those, and you pick the best 4.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so C+.
Exactly. See, I would give Deliver Unto Evil a C+.
All right. Dread Horde Invasion is next. Boy, this one's got a lot of chatter about it already. It's 1 and a black for an enchantment at rare. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and amass 1. And whenever a zombie token you control with power 6 or greater attacks, it gains lifelink until end of turn.
So this card,
apparently that never has happened, by the way.
Well, I've done it, but yeah.
Oh, look at you.
It takes a little bit of work because often what will happen is your opponent will try to stop you from getting to 6.
Yeah.
And you'll have a turn where you like play another amass card to get it up to 6 from like 4 to 6 and then attack.
Okay.
So, this card is awesome. It's a little different from a lot of these bombs where when you top deck at turn 10, it's actually not very good because it's just too slow to get going.
But it only costs 2 mana.
But on turn 2, this card's nigh unbeatable. You just play this on turn 2 and your opponent's under a ton of pressure right away.
Okay.
So I would give Dread Horde Invasion an A.
Oh, really? It's that good?
It's so good. You'll always take it early.
Okay. I'm in. Dread Horde Invasion, A. And of course, if you ever get to attack that one time.
Oh, if you ever get that chunk of 6 lifelink in, the game's just over.
The Elder Spell is next. It's black for a sorcery at rare. It says destroy any number of target planeswalkers. Choose a planeswalker you control. Put 2 loyalty counters on it for each planeswalker destroyed this way. Wow, that is something.
It's powerful.
Sideboard, right?
I would sideboard Elder Spell. I think that it's not the end of the world to main deck it if you have no good answers to planeswalkers, because every deck has like 1 at least, sometimes 2, sometimes more. It's also fairly powerful if you have your own, because getting a couple loyalty means you're getting an extra 2/2, you're getting an extra card, or whatever the conversion rate is. So I think Elder Spell gets like a sideboard B, and it's not the end of the world if you have to main deck it. And in sealed, I would tend to main deck it.
Okay, you're going to see. Remember, everybody's going to get 6 Planeswalkers in their pool. Elder Spell, sideboard B. Next is Finale of Eternity. So this is a black one. It's black X for a sorcery at Mythic. Destroy up to 3 target creatures with toughness X or less. If X is 10 or more, return all creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield.
So what this means is if they have a 4/4, a 3/3, and a 2/2, you have to spend 6 mana, and then you get to kill them all. Because X is their toughness of the biggest creature, and then you go down from there. If they have a bunch of 3/3s, 5 mana kills all 3. I mean, this card is just obscene.
This is stupid.
Another one of the top 5 cards, in the set.
What are they doing?
Finale of Eternity gets an A+.
Yeah, it's an A+ for Finale of Eternity. A 3 for 1? Come on. God Eternal Bontu. Yeah, that's right. 3 black for a 5/6 menace. When God Eternal Bontu enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents.
Including lands.
And then draw that many cards, and then once again it has that clause where it gets shuffled, or it gets a third from the top.
The coolest kill I've seen is someone who had Jace in play, playing Bontu and sacking all their lands to draw their whole deck and mill themselves to death with Jace.
That is absurd.
But this is also just 5 mana, 5/6 menace. It lets you cash in some extra lands, or maybe in a mass token or whatever. There's some other creature that's not pulling its weight. And then if it dies, it comes back later. Maybe you have new things to sack.
Stupid.
So yeah, Bontu's an A.
Another A. These God Eternals are really a little much for limited.
They are off the chain.
Yeah. Speaking of, Liliana, Dread Horde General. 4 black for legendary Planeswalker Liliana at Mythic Rare. Static ability, whenever a creature you control dies, draw a card. Nice. 6 loyalty, +1, you get a 2/2 black zombie creature token. So just with that, she's at 7 loyalty with a 2/2. -4 is each player sacrifices 2 creatures, so you can wipe away the other side of the board potentially, and maybe yours as well. -9, the ultimate is each opponent chooses a permanent they control and of each permanent type and sacrifices the rest. Whatever. I'm only really focusing on +1 and -4 here, plus that static ability.
Yeah, and that's enough to make Liliana, I believe, the second best card in the set after Mugen.
Okay.
Liliana just comes in, she has 7 loyalty, and he makes a 2/2, right? If the board is such where that's the best choice. And then you can chump with your 2/2 or any other cards, draw a card. It's not non-tokens, just any one of your creatures that dies, you draw a card. And if they have 2 or fewer creatures, like let's say 1 really big creature or 2, you can use her -4 and clock them immediately. She doesn't really die to flyers. She's so big. Liliana's just amazing. So
yeah, A+ for Liliana, Dread Horde General. That's absurd. This next card's also really been impressive. Massacre Girl, 3 black for a 4/4 legendary creature, human assassin at rare. She has menace, so already fine. A 4/4 menace for 5, I'm in. And this is kind of interesting. When Massacre Girl enters a battlefield, each other creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. Whenever a creature dies this turn, each creature other than Massacre Girl gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So it kind of just goes down the chain, huh?
Yeah, so you play Massacre Girl and it kills all their X1s. And then, let's say, for example, here's the domino effect. There's a 1/1, a 2/2, a 3/3, and a 4/4 in play. Mm-hmm. You play Massacre Girl, it kills the 1/1, triggers again, now it kills the 2/2 because it got -1/-1 previously, kills the 3/3, kills the 4/4.
Yes.
Note that it doesn't care about which side these creatures are on.
Right.
Like, she doesn't die. Massacre Girl never hits herself, but she hits everything else. The most common thing that happens when you play Massacre Girl is everything else dies.
Yes, it seems to be quite common that happens. And if it isn't going to happen, you can set it up by doing some type of attack.
Right. You can attack and they block your 2/2 with their 4/4. And then now you play this, kill a 1/1, their 4/4 dies, now kills their 3/3, etc. You also, since the effect lasts until end of turn, a common play is play Massacre Girl, trigger happens, then you play Spark Harvest, sack one of your creatures to kill one of their creatures. Now everything's definitely dying.
It just goes right up the chain once again.
So,
and it leaves her behind. And she's already good anyway.
Yeah.
So A.
Massacre Girl gets an A?
Yeah, fantastic card. Massacre Girl, and a regular rare as well. That moves us to red. Our first is Chandra. Good old Chandra. Fire Artisan here. 2 red for a 4 loyalty Planeswalker, and she's rare. Whenever one or more loyalty counters are removed from Chandra, Fire Artisan, she deals that much damage to target opponent or planeswalker. Her plus ability is +1, exile the top card of your library. You may play it this turn. So play means lands can be played.
Yeah.
So a little card advantage.
Chandra goes back and forth on lands, it appears, and this iteration lets you play.
Sends them away. And then she does have an ultimate at -7. Exile the top 7 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Now, that actually doesn't sound that great at face value because it's hard to have enough mana to spend on 7 cards, even if one of them is a land. But the joke here, of course, is that is removing 7 loyalty from Chandra and doing 7 damage to your opponent.
So Chandra's passive ability triggers every time she gets hit for damage, because loyalty counters get removed, and every time you use any sort of minus ability, which is just the ultimate here. So that's really powerful. This set's really complicated. There's a lot of passive abilities on planeswalkers that take you by surprise.
They all have one, right?
Just about all of them.
Okay. I mean, isn't it all of them?
I guess maybe all of them.
I think all of them. Yeah. I think it's like that's part of the shtick of the set.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of them, and your opponent might be in for an unpleasant surprise, and they're like, Chandra +1, play a land or whatever. They're like, okay, whatever, attack your Chandra for 5. Like, okay, you take 5.
Yeah.
Like, what?
What? Attack you back. Oops. Yeah.
So Chandra's great.
She's solid. Yeah. She does not, however, kill creatures. She does not make creatures. So I don't have her in that uppermost echelon, but she's a good card advantage engine. And
your opponent's going to take at least 5 damage to deal with her, unless they have like an exile or destroy effect.
Right.
That does not trigger her.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
B+?
I would give Chandra an A-.
Really?
She has a lot of loyalty. If you play Chandra plus her, they hit her for 3, they take 3, and note her ability can trigger and kill other opposing planeswalkers too.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Then you untap plus Chandra, get another card off her, and maybe you can defend her at that point. Chandra's really good. I've lost a lot of games.
She can run away with the game. I actually have as well, even though I've only played a few games of this set. So I'm still going to say B+ on Chandra Fire Artisan. I want to see creatures or removal.
I think Chandra's better than any common or uncommon.
Okay. Dread Horde Arcanist is next. It's 1 in a red for a zombie wizard at rare. It's a 1/3 with trample, which is a little weird. Whenever Dread Horde Arcanist attacks, you may cast a target instant or sorcery card with converted mana cost less than or equal to Dread Horde Arcanist's power from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If the card would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. You can recycle your free, maybe combat tricks or burn spells or whatever, especially if you can get a +1/+1 counter on Dread Horde Arcanist and get that key jump from 1 to 2.
Turn 2 Dread Horde Arcanist, turn 3 Stealth Mission, give it 2 +1 counters. Attack unblockably, play another one.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Attack for 5 on turn 3. Dread Horde Arcanist is good. 2 mana, 1/3 first strike with upside is just a real card.
Trample with upside, yeah.
Or trample, rather. And you can play a bunch of combat tricks or cheap spells to really take advantage of it.
Yeah, it seems totally fine. I'm not super stoked
No, it's
on
not.
it,
It's not great. I mean, it's not like a bomb or anything. I would say Dread Horde Arcanist is a C+.
Yeah, C+. That's what I have too for the Arcanist because of the setup cost. Next is the red one. It's called Finale of Promise. That's a little bit of a weird name for the red one.
Some of the names switched around because it was Hour of Promise and Hour of Eternity, and those switched colors. Like Hour of Promise was green, now it's red.
Weird. Yeah, Promise. Okay. Well, anyway, it's red. It's a red X for a sorcery. Again, mythic rare. You may cast up to 1 target instant card and or up to 1 target sorcery card from your graveyard, each with converted mana cost X or less without paying their mana costs. And if a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. If X is 10 or more, copy each of those spells twice. You may choose new targets for all of those copies. So again, focusing on the main thing, it lets you flash back, as we call it, an instant and a sorcery, as long as the most expensive one is an X.
Yeah. This card's powerful in blue-red spells.
Yeah.
I lost to it in the Pro Tour.
This one is not, though, as rawly powerful as
not at all. It takes both setup cost in terms of drafting and in terms of gameplay. But when you get to, here's what my opponent did. They cast, Callous Dismissal and Chandra's Pyro Helix, which
great.
Also trigger their Spellgorger Weird 3 times. Because this plus both spells all trigger it.
What do you mean?
Whenever you play their Spellgorger Weird says whenever you...
Spellgorger Weird. Sure. Oh, wow. So the copies work as well?
Right. So any spells matter thing, Saheeli would give you 3 tokens, for example.
Okay.
I would say this is firmly in the build-around camp because...
Build-around B, maybe?
Yeah, it's a build-around B, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you need a bunch of instants and sorceries in your deck. ideally with card draw to help you find all this stuff and put it together, but it's powerful once you do.
And you liked blue-red as its most natural
Blue-red is where it's at its best. The good
Could
thing
you see
is,
it in red-black?
you could play it in red-black as well, yes.
Okay.
The good thing about this is you probably won't wheel it, but you also might see it like 5th or 6th if you know, depending on where it gets open on the table.
Yeah, this is not just to put it.
Not everyone's going to want this. In fact, rarely will people want it.
For sure. Or Mythic rarely in this case. Speaking of Mythics, Ilharg the Raised Boar. There you go. 3 red for a 6/6 legendary Boar God. This is the pig god. Mythic rare. It's a 6/6 trample for 5.
Yeah, I would play that card.
Already into that. Whenever it attacks, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. Return that creature to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. When Ilharg the Raised Boar dies or is put into the exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library. 3rd from the top.
Yep, and not as good as the other ones we've seen so far.
No.
You know, is part of the cycle, though not actually a God Eternal. Ilharg is still just huge stats, powerful, relevant ability. It's more of a just stat monster because you're not even always going to want to put a creature into play tapped and attacking. Like, imagine you could just cast a creature because this bounces it back end of turn. You don't have the opportunity to cast it. But still, we're kind of like, you know, splitting hairs here. Ilharg is an A, and there's no rule.
It's an easy A, and when your opponent plays it, you're going to go,
yeah, you're either going to have a removal or you're going to take 6, potentially more, next turn.
Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin is next. 2 and a red for a 1/2 goblin at rare. Whenever Krenko attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it, then create a number of 1/1 red goblin creature tokens equal to Krenko's power.
So, yeah,
nice.
note that this makes 2 goblins on its first attack because it gets a +1/+1 counter first. And those goblins aren't tapped and attacking, which means it's less of an aggressive card in that sense, but good because your opponent's 2/2s don't get to eat them for free. You can kind of wait.
Yeah, that happens a lot.
Another card's good with Stealth Mission, by the way.
Oh my god, that's disgusting.
Krenko's great. If you play Krenko and they can't kill it, you're usually in a very good spot. And if you play Krenko and they can't kill it and you can kill their blocker, you almost always just win.
Yeah, also combat tricks seem really good with Krenko for multiple reasons. A, they enable an attack, and if you do them pre-combat, you get a bunch of...
Right, just Giant Growth, attack the Krenko, make 5 goblins.
Yeah.
It's very good.
And just look at your opponent and say, look, you know, you're
what
nice
are you going to do
4/4 or whatever. Yeah.
So Krenko's great, a really easy way to get free wins.
Yeah, it seems super, super good. B+ for Krenko, Tin Street Kingpin. Is Krenko even better than that?
No, I like B+ for Krenko.
Okay. Next is Mizium Tank. This is another vehicle. It's 1 red for a 3/2 artifact vehicle at rare. It's got trample. Crew cost is just 1, so that's nice. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Mizium Tank becomes an artifact creature and gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So does that mean that I don't have to crew it? Is that what it's saying?
Yeah. Basically, if you cast non-creature spells, this is a self-crewed vehicle.
Mm-hmm. I mean, a 3/2 trample is okay, but even if it was just a creature that was...
it's kind of like a 4/3 trample when you play your spells.
Yeah, okay, so you get both. Yeah.
I think on balance, this is a little bit worse than Spellgorger Weird, which is a very good card. I mean, that's just one of the better red commons for sure. But yeah, Mizium Tank is a card I would play in a kind of spell-heavy aggressive deck.
Yeah. Seems fine. This is not like... I would say like C+ for Mizium Tank.
I like C+ for Mizium Tank.
Next is Heavd Dread Horde Champion. 2 red for a 5/4 trample. Where are we at there? That's already
great.
B+ range. I mean, that's just super powerful. And then Heavd says, whenever Heavd Dread Horde Champion deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, and remember he's got trample, you may discard any number of cards. If you do, draw that many cards and add that much red mana to your mana pool. Until your end of turn, you don't lose mana as steps and phases end.
Yeah, this is so sick because it's got kind of like, you know, overtuned stats for how quickly it comes out. You play this on turn 4, it's going to dominate the field. And then when you hit your opponent, you get to recycle your hand into new cards and have extra mana to play those cards.
Yeah. How aggressively would you be shipping away cards? Is it where you'd be super picky about it? Well, I don't need this one land, so I'll get rid of it.
If Nehem's working, you don't really need lands all that much anyway because you get a bunch of extra red mana. So I'm inclined to ditch all my lands and any spells that are kind of below average and just go for a fresh new grip.
B?
A-.
A-. Wow, you're just handing them out.
I mean, these cards are just so good. Compare these cards to the commons. 4 mana, 5/4 trample with 2 good abilities. Like,
we're completely insane.
We're not talking like, this card's a little bit better. You know, a common is like a 4-mana 4/4, and that's even a good common, and this is just like, well, I gave you an extra point of stats, I gave you trample, and I gave you an on-hit ability.
Yeah, fine. A- for Heavd Dread Horde Champion. Last red card is Sarkhan the Masterless. This is 3 red for a 5 loyalty Sarkhan. Whenever a creature, this is static ability, whenever a creature attacks you or a planeswalker you control, each dragon you control deals 1 damage to that creature.
All right.
Well, let's get some dragons then. -3.
How do we get dragons?
-3 is you get a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. And the +1 is until end of turn, this gets a little weird, each planeswalker you control becomes a 4/4 red dragon creature and gains flying. So that A includes Sarkhan and then any other planeswalkers you have. And it ends the game very quickly.
Yeah. So one thing that's really important to note, though, is these planeswalkers are not indestructible and damage is not prevented, unlike every Gideon iteration we've ever seen. So if you have a Sarkhan and you +1 it and you attack with your Sarkhan and they cast Jaya's Greeting, it'll remove 3 loyalty and take 3 damage. And so let's say you had a 2 loyalty Sarkhan, they could kill it with a 2 damage burn spell like a Sorin's Thirst.
But not in combat.
They could also kill it in combat. Yes.
I mean, I'm saying it would not, if they blocked it with a 2-powered creature, it wouldn't work.
No, that would still work.
It would not work.
Why?
It actually becomes a 4/4 creature, so it actually only pays attention to the toughness.
No, it hits both.
No, it doesn't. I read it.
You read it?
Yeah, I'll read it to you. In fact, I read this on the air today.
Oh, it's just the damage spells.
Yes.
Damage spells work the one way, but combat does not.
Yeah, so it says they don't lose any loyalty counters or abilities when they become this, and you can still activate their abilities if you haven't. It says they don't lose loyalty if they're dealt damage while they're not planeswalkers. So these become creatures.
They lose the planeswalker attacks?
Yes.
So then the Sorin's Thirst doesn't matter then?
Yes.
Okay.
And the Jaya's whatever doesn't matter either.
Okay, so that actually doesn't work then.
No, it does not. But then they also just have the planeswalker ability that you can still use. They're just not planeswalkers.
Oh, okay.
They really went weird with this one. It actually came up today on a feature manager.
Also.
Yes, it is very unintuitive.
I'm glad I'm doing the review.
And in fact, what happened was, just as a short aside here, is I had actually played against this in a draft and thought, well, what is going on here? So I looked it up and I found the FAQ on it. Then today in the booth, this card came up again and I said, hey, there's something interesting about this. And I started saying it. And then the player who was playing asked the judge, and then the judge got it wrong and thought it was how you did as well. And then they had to back it up because I was like,
I wonder if they changed something because I think it used to maybe function that way.
I don't know. Every other one is like an indestructible creature that also has the damage prevented to it to avoid this stuff. But they're saying this is a creature that just has counters. Like imagine their charge counters or just something that doesn't get affected. Yeah. And then the creature gets this ability to remove those counters and do this stuff. So anyway,
because we specifically talked about this before the tournament started, and we all thought this is the way it works.
Yeah, that is the intuitive way.
Yeah.
And it is not actually how it works.
All right, well, there you go.
They did it weird. But this card's really powerful. You're getting a 4/4 flyer for 5 mana with leaving behind Sarkhan and then that static ability. And then on top of it, if you have even one other planeswalker, they both get in the air and attack for 4. It's just stupid.
Your opponent dies really quickly. Basically, it's a 5 mana 4/4 flying with upside.
Yes. Really good card. Sarkhan the Masterless is fantastic. Having played against it, it kills you very quickly.
Yeah, I would say Sarkhan's an easy A.
Yeah, A for Sarkhan the Masterless. That moves us to green. Awakening of V2 Gauzy. This is 3 green for an instant at rare. It says put 9 +1/+1 counters on target land you control. It becomes a legendary 0/0 elemental creature with haste named V2 Gauzy. It's still a land. So instant speed 9/9.
Oh yeah, and it doesn't untap the land because some effects like this do. So note that. Also, this also gets stopped by Tomic, the 2/3 flyer.
It does. Yeah, you're right.
This card's good.
Oh, that's funny.
You're getting set up for a 2-for-1 because this is kind of like an aura, right? But it's also, first of all, it's a 9/9, so it's really hard to kill.
Yeah.
Second, you're giving even if they do something to this like bounce or kill it, you lost a land. It's not the end of the world.
It's not a creature. Yeah.
And it kind of has haste. Both it literally has haste. Also, just your opponent's not going to expect it.
Right.
So I think this card's quite good. It's just a good finisher for a green deck.
Yeah, it just seems really powerful to me. If you have extra mana, you can flash it in and block with it. And if not, you could even just have 5 mana, end step it, and then get in.
Exactly. So I would give Awakening of V2 Gauzy a B.
Yeah, B for Awakening V2 Gauzy. Next is, finally, not a great one, Finale of Devastation. This is green X for a sorcery. Search your library and or graveyard for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield. And then if you search your library this way, shuffle it. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get +X and gain haste until end of turn. I guess you could actually get to that huge mana cost here occasionally, but let's focus again on the main ability. How good is this? You're adding 2 green mana to tutor up and put one of your creatures in play.
Or to get it back from the graveyard if it died early. It's really not good.
Clunky, man.
It just costs so much mana. So I would advise against playing this card in general.
What if you had a bomb? What if you had God Eternal Ronus, our next card?
I still think that you can do better than that. Would you pay 7 mana to search that up? Because at that point, you're losing a lot of the efficiency that makes Ronus. So I think that Finale of Devastation is a D. Yeah.
Okay, D for that. But let's read God Eternal Ronus. That is our next card. 3 green for a legendary creature, zombie god at Mythic. 5/5 with Death Touch. Not bad. When God Eternal Ronus enters the battlefield, double the power of each other creature you control until end of turn. Those creatures gain vigilance until end of turn. And then once again, as a God Eternal, it has that clause that says if it were to be put in your graveyard or exile, you put it 3rd from the top.
A little more tame than some of the other God Eternals, because yes, Ronus is a 5/5 Death Touch unkillable, and yes, Ronus sets up a big attack, but wow, this really just shows how ridiculous.
Yeah, it fell flat.
No, Ronus is very good. Yeah. You're going to set up a big. Here's one of the reasons Ronus is awesome is early it's a 5/5 Death Touch for 5. That's just great. Mm-hmm. Later in the game, the come to play ability matters a lot more, and sometimes you're going to end up in situations where you play Ronus early, your opponent's forced to trade it off. Then by the time Ronus comes back, you've developed your board a bit more, and then there goes the end of the battlefield. Yeah. So Ronus is an A. Another A. Just like all of them.
Yawn. Yeah, these cards are just
it's okay. Some of them are A+.
Yeah, you're right. Next is Nissa, Who Shakes the World. This is 3 green for a legendary Planeswalker. Nissa, 5 loyalty. Whenever you tap a forest for mana, add an additional green. So it doubles your forest. +1, put 3+1/+1 counters on up to 1 target non-creature land you control. Untap it. It becomes a 0/0 elemental creature with vigilance and haste that's still a land. There's actually a lot going on with that. Turns one of your lands into a 3/3, and it kind of gives you what you want. You get to untap it. You can tap it for mana and then untap it. That's kind of cool. It also has haste, and it has vigilance, so you can attack with it and then tap it for mana.
This effect untaps the land.
Yeah, which is really cool. It does have a slight clause in there that's worth noting, though. It's 1 target non-creature land, so you can't keep piling the counters. Yeah. -8, this is the ultimate here for Nissa, is you get an emblem with lands you control have indestructible. Search your library for any number of forest cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library.
Nissa, again, a huge bomb.
Yeah. I have actually played with this card, and she was fantastic.
You play Nissa, you make a 3/3, which defends Nissa or potentially bashes. And then you then get to tap all your lands for double mana the next turn, which means you get to drop a bunch of stuff, make another land. Some point, I guess you could ultimate. I've never seen it last that long.
No, I don't think you need to, because the game ends before that, thanks to all the 3/3s.
Yeah. So Nissa gets an A.
Yeah, Nissa, Who Shakes the World, gets an A. Next is Plane-Wide Celebration. 5 GG, so 7 mana for a sorcery. Choose 4. You may choose the same mode more than once. Here's your choices. Create a 2/2 citizen creature token. That's all colors. Return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Proliferate. You gain 4 life.
It's kind of sweet.
Yeah, you can make 4 2/2s. Maybe make 3 2/2s, get a card back. If you need the life, I mean, you could gain, 16 life?
The most common mode is make 2 2/2s and get 2 things back. Because getting something back is the most powerful mode, but it's also the slowest. It doesn't impact the board at all. So usually you're unable to just do that. Proliferate's the least common. You have to be pretty far ahead before you want that.
Yeah, for sure.
But this card's great. It just you play this for 7, you make a couple 2/2s, you get a couple cards back. It's powerful. It's not a bomb, but it's a good control card. It's a good way to close out games.
Yeah, I'd ramp into this, no problem. Also, It's almost impossible to lose a turn after you cast this.
Yeah, if you've misjudged the board, maybe, but if you need to make 3 2/2s and gain 4 life, that's a lot of defense.
Yeah, absolutely. But 7 mana is really pretty crippling here. Sure, I would want to play this in my ramp deck.
You're not going to play aggro decks.
No. I mean, it would be like a B- or a C+.
It's a B-.
Finisher. Yeah. Plane-wide Celebration gets a B-. Next is Vivian, Champion of the Wilds. 2 and a green for a Vivian at rare. For loyalty, you may cast creature spells as though they had flash as your static ability.
Yep.
It's pretty good. +1. Until your next turn, up to one target creature gains Vigilance and Reach.
Yeah, that's kind of a throwaway.
It's not really great. -2. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Exile one face down and put the rest on the bottom in any order. For as long as it remains exiled, you may look at that card and you may cast it if it's a creature card.
Yeah, so note that even if they kill Vivian, that card remains in exile and can be cast if it's a creature.
Okay.
So
this is a lot. This is enough going on for me to be pretty excited about this card.
Because imagine you like play Vivian and plus her right away. You have a blocker, and then next turn, your opponent can't attack her. You untap, minus her, and then just pass the turn. Mm-hmm. Your opponent has now...
What are they supposed to do?
Like, if they attack you, you could just flash in a 4/5 or whatever, or Bloom Hulk on 4. And if they don't play anything, you just play your creature in a turn. Obviously, they don't know whether you hit or not, but you're going to hit most of the time. Yeah. Vivian's really good. The fact that the vigilance isn't a big deal, it lets you attack, which is kind of nice, but mainly it's the reach. It means that even if they've got a flyer out, you can, give whatever dork you played earlier, reach. Vivian is not a Planeswalker I'd slam on turn 3 as much as on turn 6, because she's also progressively scarier the more mana you have up.
Right.
Once you're threatening playing, Yavimaya Worms and stuff, like that's when we're really talking.
The -2 ability also just card advantage is nice.
Straight up card advantage. So
what do we like B+ for Vivian?
I think she's an A-. I've really seen her dominate games.
Really? That good? I mean, it is only 3 mana.
The thing is she's so cheap, and she finds other creatures, and she gives them flash.
Yeah.
Which means that your opponent sometimes is going to throw away cards by attacking into her flash creatures.
Yes.
Or not attack and let you draw an extra card of Vivian.
Yeah, that's really bad for them either way you go. All right, A- for Vivian, Champion of the Wilds. That's a lot for 3 mana.
Oh, yeah.
Next is Vivian's Arc Bow. This is 1 and a green for a legendary artifact. It's rare. You can pay X and tap it and discard a card to look at the top X cards of your library. You may put a creature card with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield and put the rest on the bottom in a random order. I was interested in this card. I've asked people. They all say it does not live up. It's just you don't get what you want.
The problem is when it works, you're not getting card advantage. You're getting card selection because you discarded maybe a bad card or a land or what have you.
Yeah, redundant land.
And got to look at your top 4 or 5 cards for something. But when it misses, it's so bad. Can you imagine you're just like, pass with 5 mana up. Your opponent's like, okay, fine, I won't attack you, go. And you're like, spend 5, use this. And it's just like, I missed. Well... that sucks.
That sucked.
So I think Vivian's Arc Bow is generally a trap. I could see playing it if I had a lot of high quality creatures and had like a 20 creature deck or something, or an 18 creature deck. Mm-hmm. But in the average deck, it just does not seem.
And those never happen that way because then you've got 4 or 5 slots for non-creature spells.
One of them the Arc Bow.
This is one of them. You're going to probably want that to be band together or whatever. So I don't like Vivian's Arc Bow at all. I think it's just bad. I want to give it a D.
Yeah, I like the Arc Bow at D.
All right. That moves us into the gold section where the fireworks really keep going here. Ajani.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say start, but
I think
they've been popping off the whole time.
Many of the monocolored cards are actually just more powerful.
Well, each color has a finale and a God Eternal, and the God Eternal is always good, and the finale is half the time good.
Yes. Ajani the Great-Hearted is our first gold card. It's 2 green-white for a 5 loyalty legendary Planeswalker Ajani at rare. Creatures you control have vigilance as a static. Okay. +1, you gain 3 life. Okay. -2, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control and a loyalty counter on each other Planeswalker you control.
Yep,
nice.
That's a beating.
That's business, right?
So
we really like Pledge of Unity. This is like a more expensive one, but with a lot of upside.
Yeah.
I like Ajani. This also goes perfectly in the color pair that Ajani is. This is exactly what you want to do. And it's kind of a curve topper. I don't know. I'm not quite as excited about turn 4 Ajani as much as turn 6 or 7.
Yeah, and if you had a really good draw, turn 4 Ajani is a beating. But in general, you're like, yeah, you're just trying to curve out with creatures and just play an Ajani, and it works so well with Proliferate. If you can ever connect with a Proliferate, like 1/1 flyer, or play a Proliferate card after you have Ajani, your whole squad is getting bigger.
And Ajani too. Yeah,
it's always really powerful too when these rares kind of work with the themes of the color pair.
Yeah.
And Ajani totally does. So
yeah.
I think a Johnny gets an A-.
A- for Johnny the Great-Hearted, really for synergy reasons.
In most sets, a Johnny would probably get an A, but in this set, I think A- is actually a little closer.
Sorry, Johnny. Next is Bioessence Hydra. Sorry to bring this one up again. 3 blue-green for a 4/4 Hydra mutant at rare. Trample. So 4/4 trample for 5. Yeah. When Bioessence Hydra enters the battlefield... it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each loyalty counter on planeswalkers you control. Whenever one or more loyalty counters are put on planeswalkers you control, put that many +1/+1 counters on Bioessence Hydra. So if you play a 3 or 4 mana planeswalker and then play the Hydra, you check that number of loyalty and it maybe is a 7/7 trample for 5 or something like that. Then if you cast a planeswalker later, that puts counters on it, on the planeswalker, which then puts them also on the Hydra.
And when you +1 a planeswalker also.
Mm-hmm. This card does not seem amazing to me, but look, if you've got a few planeswalkers, it can get out of hand.
It's the sort of card where...
Do you have any experience with that?
I lost to it badly in the Pro Tour.
The card was gross.
I mean, just my opponent played it, then played a 5 loyalty planeswalker on the next turn and Kazmina, and then just...
It's like cool.
Basically, if you have no planeswalkers, this card's a low tier playable. You would rather not play it. It's just a D. Mm-hmm. But once you have like 2, it becomes like probably a C+. Once you have 4, it becomes like an A-.
Yeah, it's probably a B+, A-. It's a grade A threat.
Yeah, just once you reliably can give this +4/+4, +5/+5. And no, you're not like putting an aura on this. You also just have a planeswalker in play that does whatever it's going to do.
Mm-hmm. And the counters stick around anyway. So yeah, I would call it a build around, right? Like you said, it ranges from a D to the B+, A- range depending on how many planeswalkers you have. So grade it based on that. Next is called Casualties of War. 2 black, green for a sorcery at rare. Choose 1 or more. Destroy target artifact, creature, enchantment, land, or planeswalker.
Yeah, Casualties of War is...
just to be clear, you can do all of those.
Yeah, you can do as many as you have targets for, but you don't have to have each one out to cast this.
Mm-hmm. So in limited, destroy target creature and land is almost guaranteed.
Yeah.
In this set, planeswalker will come up quite often. Enchantment every once in a while, artifact every once in a while.
Mainly this is kill a creature, a planeswalker, and a land, and that's very good.
That's fantastic.
And if you have...
That's super fun.
And if you have to spend 6 to kill a creature and a land, so be it.
Yeah. I love it. Casualties of War is sweet. Now, this is not... it is 2 black, green. It's 6 mana and 2 very specific colors, but one of those colors is green. And we've seen that there's tons of fixing. And I think that in that color pair or in that 3 to 4 color build, Casualties of War is very castable, and I think it'll do a really good job.
Yeah, it's a very strong card in the like black-green ramp deck, which often splashes other colors. I've seen a Spellweaver Weird get this thing back.
Yeah, I mean, oh really? Oh yeah, that's you're doing it.
Yeah.
Look, in that deck, I like this a lot. I like it as a B+.
Yeah, I would say Casualty of War is a B+. Later in the draft, I would say it might go up if you're lacking in removal and you're these colors. Mm-hmm. Early in the draft, it's a little risky to take this card because it's got such specific mana cost.
Yeah, that is the problem with it. Next card is Domri, Anarch of Bolas. It's 1 green-red for a 3 loyalty Domri at rare. Creatures you control get +1/+0 as a static. +1 add red or green. Creature spells you cast this turn can't be countered. Sure. -2, target creature you control fights target creature you don't control. This is a very Domri card here.
Oh yeah, it brawls. Domri is very good because you can play Domri, lets your creatures, fight your opponent's creatures, even punch above their weight class sometimes with the +1/+0. Mm-hmm. But Domri is also secretly just a ramp spell.
Yeah.
Which gets you to a bigger creature, which then at some point can start fighting too. So, and the static +1/+0 is also a really nice bonus. Domri just kind of does it all for 3 mana. It's a little weak if you have no creatures or you have small creatures because you're not getting much value out of the fight. And I would say in general, Domri fits very nicely exactly in red-green because that's not only is that the colors of Domri, that's where you have a lot of beefy creatures.
The fighting becomes very relevant. What do you like? Do you like B+ for Domri, Anarch of Bolas?
I think Domri gets a B+.
I mean, we're not talking about card advantage or killing creatures unless you have other creatures. Well, it's a little conditional.
Yeah, it's card advantage if your creatures can survive the fight.
Yes.
If your 3/4 kills their 3/3, then you're netting some advantage there.
And you have Domri left over.
Yeah.
B+ for Domri, Anarch of Bolas. Next is Dreadhorde Butcher. This is black-red for a 1/1 with haste. It's a zombie warrior. Whenever Dreadhorde Butcher deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Whenever Dreadhorde Butcher dies, it deals damage equal to its power to any target.
This card's
it's a handful, but you got to be able to get it in there.
Yeah, and it's the sort of thing where it having constructed applications, I think, does make people think more of the card than it would be, because you don't always have this card on turn 2. You don't always have a removal spell to push it through on turn 3.
No, and if you draw, even if you play it as late as turn 4 or 5, it's already very outclassed.
Yeah. Even then, it's still a Footlight Fiend, which is nice.
That's true. That's a good point.
You know, that's still fine. So, again, as long as you have reasonable expectations of this card, it's a fine card. I basically always play it in red-black, but I would take all the common removal spells over it. You know, Dreadhorde Butcher's like a C+, B-.
C.
You think just a C? Maybe a C. Maybe a C+.
I just don't like it later.
You have to factor in the runaway potential, though.
Yes, you do get that upside.
If you play it, hit them, it's a 2/2, then you kill their first play, and it's a 3/3, the game snowballs really quickly.
They are completely out of
So I actually just like C+.
Okay, C+.
I wouldn't go B-, but I wouldn't go C either.
Next, Enter the God Eternals. Jeez. 2 blue, black for a sorcery. Enter the God Eternals does kind of everything you want. It does 4 damage to a creature, and you gain life equal to the damage dealt this way. Target player puts the top 4 cards of their library into their graveyard, and you amass 4.
So it's a 4/4, it gains 4, it deals 4, and it mills them for 4?
Yeah.
And sometimes the 4/4 is haste because you already have an amass token.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, this card's ridiculous.
Stupid.
It's funny because it's actually not the top end of bombs, because at the end of the day, this is just a normal card. Like, you can eventually, you'll take some lumps interacting with this, but they kill your 4/4, then you kill this
card. This is a sick 2-for-1.
Look, yeah, it's a sick 2-for-1, but we're talking these cards that are unkillable 6/6s for 5 to give you value every turn.
No, you're right.
So that said, Enter the God Eternals is an A. It's just, the high end on this set is just absurd.
This set, they did not pull punches.
We need a classification that's not Prince or Pauper, because there's something as King.
Yeah. Enter the God Eternals gets an A. Next is Feather the Redeemed. Red, white for a 3/4 flying legendary angel. I like that already, again, in that deck. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell that targets a creature you control, exile that card instead of putting it into your graveyard as it resolves. If you do, return it to your hand at the beginning of the next end step. So the combat trick queen here, you target her, or any of your creatures apparently, if Feather's out, and you get to just get those tricks back. The one that comes to mind is Defiant Strike.
Yeah, that's a good little card drawing engine. You can use it on their turn and on your turn. Battlefield Promotion also can kind of go nuts.
Yep.
Chandra's Parry Hylian, 1 to their creature, 1 to yours.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah, it's a powerful card. Obviously, a lot of the power is just in the 3/4 flyer, but nothing wrong with that. You don't have to even have any tricks to use this with, but it gets nicer once you do.
And of course, it also, like we said about a Johnny, is very on theme. This card is just an evasive great threat that plays into the themes that you want to for red-white anyway. It's probably an A-. I mean, this thing is a 3/4 flyer for 3 mana.
I think it's a B+, just because it's a little hard to cast.
It's hard to kill.
It is, but if you don't cast Feather on 3, like your mana situation doesn't work out, at some point it's kind of like the 5 mana 3/4 Griffin.
Oh, yeah.
It's just going to come out a little bit later.
That's true. It has this random upside, but you might not realize that.
So,
okay, B+ for Feather the Redeemed. Next is Living Twister. This is red, green for a 2/5 elemental, It's rare. You can pay 1 and a red and discard a land to have it do 2 damage to any target, and you can pay green to return a tapped land you control to its owner's hand.
Yeah, lost to this one too.
Is this good?
It's very good.
Okay.
It's got, again, a specific mana cost, but at least this, unlike Feather, is still great in the late game. Like, Feather's still good in the late game, but Feather feels unfair on turn 3. Living Twister feels unfair just about any time. And especially in the late game, where once you start chucking your lands at them, or their creatures, or their planeswalkers, like, turning all your lands into shocks is really good, because you could just pick up your lands and throw them right away.
Right. So you play green-red 1 to do 2 damage.
And sack a land.
And sack a land.
Yeah, that's great.
So you can get in for 8 or 10 in the late game, just sort of working through your lands. B+ for Living Twister?
I would actually give it an A-.
You would? Okay. I have no experience with it.
I think it's really good once you get it going.
Okay. I'm just going to defer to you. Also, the stats are weird, but strangely good.
2/5 is pretty burly.
It is. So A- for Living Twister. Nicol Bolas Dragon God is next. This is blue, black, red. Very difficult mana cost here for a legendary Planeswalker Bolas at Mythic Rare. Static ability, Nicol Bolas, Dragon God, has all loyalty abilities of other Planeswalkers on the battlefield. That is super cool. What a sweet one. The loyalty abilities that Nicol Bolas has inherently, though, are +1. You draw a card. Each opponent exiles a card from their hand or a permanent they control. That is stupid. -3, destroy target creature or Planeswalker. That is also very good. -8, each opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or Planeswalker loses the game, which probably has already happened if you've used any of the other abilities any number of times. I mean, really the focal point for me here is the mana cost, because the abilities are a joke. They're just complete. I mean, they are pushing these cards so hard, but the thing that they're leaning on is the mana cost. And this one's really, really hard to cast. It's black, 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 red, blue. None of that being green, so you're not picking up any of that incidental fixing as well. Is this thing even castable and limited? Have you seen it on the battlefield yet?
I have, yes. It's where you want to use it is a base black, either blue-black, splash red control deck, or black-red, splash blue.
Okay.
And then you want to prioritize like Gateway Plaza and the Geode and the Orb. The 2-mana artifact. So once you do that, then you're able to cast this. And even if this card costs like effective 7, it would still be a good card.
Absolutely.
It's just so powerful once it's on the battlefield. So it's a card I think pick one, pack one is pretty close to like a lot of the common removal, like Ob Nicholas's Cruelty as the top
that's
end.
what I want to know. Like, okay, obviously if you're streaming, you're taking Nicol Bolas every time.
Right.
But if you're sitting at the Mythic Championship like you were the last couple of days, boy, that's a big commitment.
I'm taking Ob Nicholas's Cruelty to start the draft.
Okay.
If I was already blue-black or black-red, I would take Nicol Bolas.
Yeah, you don't need much of a push in that direction, but boy, it's committal. I mean, I like A+ for Nicol Bolas with the caveat that, you need to be able to cast
it's kind of like almost a build around where the challenge is getting the right colors.
Yes.
So yes, in Grixis or blue-black or black-red where you can splash, it's like an A+, but realistically it's like C+, B- in terms of where you're going to
pick it. Yep, that's right. Nicol Bolas, Dragon God. Well, just drafted accordingly. Niv Mizzet Reborn. I already saw this card cast as well. These 4 or 5 color decks are very real in the format. Niv Mizzet Reborn costs Wooburg. So white, blue, black, red, green for a 6/6 flying legendary dragon avatar. When Niv Mizzet Reborn enters the battlefield, reveal the top 10 cards of your library. For each color pair, choose a card that's exactly those colors from among them. Put the chosen cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom in a random order. What does that mean? So if I see an Azorius card,
you get to draw a card from each guild.
Yeah, but they have to be
exactly the guild.
Those guild
cards. Exactly Azorius, exactly Boros, what have you.
So you don't actually get that many off of it, but you do get a 6/6 flying for 5.
Yeah, I don't think this card's very good.
No.
Because one of each color is castable in this format. Like, imagine a card that was one of each color win the game. Mm-hmm. I would give that card an A. I would say do your damage to cast it.
Yeah, and you could do it here.
Cool, but Niv Mizzet doesn't just win you the game.
Not even close.
Sometimes your opponent's just like, okay, Wanderer strike it, and you've got basically nothing. So I think Niv Mizzet's more of a meme card than anything else. I would give it a D. I just don't think you should be trying to do this.
I agree. I like 6/6 flyers, and that is nice.
Look, even in the like black-green 5-color deck, if you have like a Mana Geode out and a Leyline Prowler and a bunch of Swamps and Forests, you still can't cast this. Yeah. Like, you need a lot to get
You do, and I don't think the payoff's really there. The times that we saw it at the Mythic Championship, it was very good as a 6/6 flyer, but it drew 1 card each time. It was mediocre.
It essentially got someone into the top 8.
I like D for Niv Mizzet Reborn. Next is Oath of Kaya. That is 1 white-black for a legendary enchantment. So this is another Oath. We've seen this kind of throughout some sets over the past few years. When Oath of Kaya enters the battlefield, it deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life.
All right.
I like that. It's just, basically sorcery speed. Drain something for 3. Whenever an opponent attacks a planeswalker you control with 1 or more creatures, Oath of Kaya deals 2 damage to that player, and you gain 2 life.
I like Oath of Kaya.
Me too. Yeah.
It's worse than Ob Nicholas's Cruelty pick 1, pack 1, because it's gold and it doesn't kill quite as big of things.
Right.
But if it's a fine card to take early. It's a slow lightning helix, and if you've got a bunch of planeswalkers out, this card can really be aggravating for your opponent.
Absolutely. I like it. Whatever.
I would give it a B minus.
I think it's a B minus.
Yeah.
Yeah. The drain is really nice, and against the aggressive decks, it is a nightmare for them. Next is Ral Storm Conduit. This is 2 blue-red for a 4 loyalty Ral at rare. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, Ral deals 1 damage to target opponent or planeswalker. So that's your static ability. +2 is Scry 1. Now, the thing I want to note here is that Scry 1, okay, that's not that great, right?
Yeah.
But that is 6 loyalty on 4 mana planeswalker. That is great.
Rel is not easy to kill.
Right. And then the -2 is fantastic. When you cast your next instant or sorcery spell this turn, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy.
Yeah, Ral is a beating just because the main play pattern with Ral is play Ral plus it, go up to 6. Your opponent can sometimes attack it, but rarely can kill it. Then next turn you're like minus it, Callous Dismissal, bounce 2 things, or minus it, Jaya's Greeting, kill 2 things.
Minus it anything.
Minus it, Totally Lost, bounce 2 things.
And they take 2 damage as well, just incidentally.
And if you can't do that, well, maybe just plus it again and then play another blocker.
Yeah, and it is setting up your draw step with the Scry to find these spells if you don't have them. Ral was awesome every single time we saw him on camera.
I got dumpstered by this card today as well. So
yeah.
Ral, I would give it A.
Yeah, I would too. Ral Storm Conduit gets an A. I think we might be hitting record stages here, by the way, for A's.
Oh yeah, the last set that had this many A's was Fate Reforged.
Yes, right. And
which was the first set review we did.
Yes, it is. And I think this set's
we got Mugen right this time.
Water. Roll-esque Apex Hybrid. We did give the 8 mana spell not a great grade, by the way. Roll-esque Apex Hybrid is 2 GGU, so 5 mana total for a 4/5 flying, trampling, legendary human mutant at Mythic Rare. 5 mana 4/5 flying trample, sure. When Roll-esque Apex Hybrid enters the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on another target creature you control.
Okay.
That's great. I'm into this already because this is 6 power and 7 toughness distributed on 2 creatures, one of them with flying and trample. When Roll-esque dies proliferate, then wicca proliferate again.
So it's 5 mana, 6/7 flying trample worth of stats. You can distribute it a little, and then when it dies, give all any creature you have with a +1 counter an additional 2 +1 counters. Give your planeswalkers 2 counters. Yep, Roll-esque is an A+. Roll-esque is just obscene.
Do they leave any good cards for the next set? Like, what happened?
I don't know. It's wild.
Another A for Roll-esque Apex Hybrid. Next is Role Reversal. Finally, a card I cannot give an A. Blue-red for a sorcery. Exchange control of 2 target permanents. They share a permanent type. This is a rare. I don't even think this card is bad. I don't think it's an A, though.
I think it's actually like an A-.
Is it really?
Yeah, so it looks a little unassuming, but here...
this is just, what's it called, for 3, right?
It's switcheroo for 3, but there's a couple key differences. Okay. One, you can switch planeswalkers.
Sure.
So
but often, why would that be good for you?
Well, often you end up with a planeswalker with like 1 loyalty, then it's not doing anything.
I see.
Like how often do you have like a Wanderer or a Narset on 1 loyalty where your opponent's Tybalt, I could kill this, but I don't really need to. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, take your rare planeswalker.
Okay, that is gross.
The second is that there's a lot of tokens like a mass, for example.
Yes.
Where you end up taking, giving them a 1/1 mass token and taking their best creature. Also, the high end on creatures is so high in this set.
Wow, you're right. That really, if they have Roll-esque sitting over there, or Ral, or any of these cards that we just said,
so
really an A- though?
It's better than it looks.
Does it happen? Does it play out the way you want it to more often?
Almost every time, yeah. As long as you set it up. Because it's the sort of thing where like the games go kind of long, and you can set this up when you know you have this. Yeah. Also, blue-red does a good job of getting spells back in your graveyard. You can sometimes do this multiple times. So. Yeah, Role Reversal, initially, it didn't look that good, but a couple games in, we were like, oh yeah, this card's really good.
All right, fine. I'm going to go B+. I can't do it, man. Role Reversal, B+, A-. Next is Solar Blaze. This is 2 red-white for a sorcery at rare. Each creature deals damage to itself equal to its power. So if they have square power and toughness, equal, they die.
Yeah.
So that, gives you a wrath, but anything that's a 1/4 or 2/3 or whatever doesn't actually die.
Unless it has a death touch, because.
Right. Also, lifelink is kind of funny.
Yeah. This card's just okay. It's not actually a good red-white card because the red-white aggro decks don't want it, but it's a good splash card in the control decks. Like if you're like, Jeskai control or something along those lines, like some 3 or 4 color control deck.
Okay.
The colors are awkward though, because black-green is the multicolored control deck, so playing this in black-green can be difficult.
It just doesn't seem consistent either. No. Like, it just doesn't always do the thing that you need it to do when you need to do it, and it's actually asking quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't think it's great overall. I think it's like a B-, maybe a C+.
C+ for Solar Blaze.
Well, when you want it, it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
When you are these like 3 or 4 color control decks, it can be quite effective.
Yeah, especially against it's actually really good against red-white.
Yes.
Awkwardly. Next is Sorin Vengeful Bloodlore. This is 2 white-black for a 4 loyalty legendary Sorin at rare. As long as it's your turn, creatures and planeswalkers you control have lifelink. Now you might be asking yourself, why would I care if my planeswalker had lifelink? +2, Sorin Vengeful Bloodlore deals 1 damage to target player or planeswalker. There's your answer. Not great, though. That is a lot of loyalty. This reminds me of Ral. A relatively minor effect on the plus, but still tons of loyalty. And then -X, return target creature card with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. Now, didn't you have this card today?
I did. Very good.
Is it really great?
Sorin is an A. Basically, what you do with Sorin is again, like Ral, you'll play Sorin often plus, but sometimes you actually just minus right away, depending on what they have out. And you also can get a nice lifelink hidden if you're ever in a position to attack. But this will accumulate value over turns. It is such high loyalty. You're just going to go like Sorin, tick it up, minus get back a creature, tick it up, minus get back a creature. Also, your opponent's just in a spot where as you keep getting back creatures, they have trouble attacking Sorin. And you can also, if you don't care about Sorin, just attack all your creatures and get a bunch of life off lifelink.
That's right. Makes racing really difficult. Plus, black and white, has pretty good removal in this set too, so you can actually.
You can also ping your opponent's planeswalkers, so it's a good way to finish off planeswalkers.
Okay, so an A for Sorin Vengeful Bloodlord. I'm really proud of us, by the way, for not falling for the trap of making these all relative. Like, these cards are just good. If you take them, you're going to win. Yes. Just because we happen to have seen something more powerful earlier. Soul Diviner is blue-black for a zombie wizard. It's a 2/3, so already I'm pretty happy with that at rare. Has a great activated ability in this set. Tap it to remove a counter from an artifact, creature, land, or planeswalker you control to draw a card.
Soul Diviner is good. Yeah. Almost every blue-black deck's going to have, amass tokens all even naturally come with a +1/+1 counter, so it's basically sack a 1 on a mass token or shrink one of the bigger ones to draw a card.
Yep.
Can eat your planeswalkers if you don't need them anymore. Just there's other random creatures that have counters. It works with Proliferate because you get more counters to eventually eat. Mm-hmm. And it's got really good stats. You just play this on turn 2, you'll be pretty happy. Yeah. So I wouldn't even call it a build around because every deck's going to have something.
Yes, and the stats make it an
exactly.
inclusion.
But it's also not a bomb. It's like a B.
Yeah, B for Soul Diviner. Really good card, though. I've seen it do work. Next is Storiv Devkarin Lich. This is 4 mana, so 1 black, green. A little intensive on the mana, but you get a 5/4 with trample somehow. And whenever Storiv deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, return to your hand target creature or planeswalker card in your graveyard that wasn't put there this combat.
Yeah, and that's to stop you from attacking this into their creature and you trading and it getting itself back.
Having it died and then it comes home again. But it gets your other creatures there.
Yes.
5/4 trample for 4 mana, Luis.
With upside.
What am I supposed to do with these cards? I guess just cast them and kill my opponent.
I think that it's an A-, just because it's kind of like Feather, where every turn you miss playing this based on not having black, green is one turn away from where it's busted to where it's just like a good card.
Mm-hmm. Next is Tamiyo, Collector of Tales. Tamiyo is 2 blue-green for a legendary planeswalker Tamiyo at rare. 5 loyalty. Static ability is spells and abilities your opponents control can't cause you to discard cards or sacrifice permanents. So not literally irrelevant, but pretty low on relevancy.
Yeah, it doesn't come up a ton.
Right. +1. Choose a non-land card name, then reveal the top 4 cards of your library. Put all cards with the chosen name from among them into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Weird.
Oh, yeah.
So do you name the thing that you want? Do you name the thing that you have the most of? Do you name the thing that you need at the moment if you're not going to?
It's really just contextual. Like, if the board's pretty stable and you're not under a ton of pressure, it's probably better to name multiple things you have multiples of. If you need, if you need to find Jaya's Greeting or you're going to die, you name Jaya's Greeting. If you're really looking for that finale of eternity to close things out, just name that. And if Tamiyo misses or hits puts other things in the graveyard, you can then use her minus. It's not a permanent. It's just any card.
Yeah, -3, return target card from your graveyard to your hand.
Get back a spell.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, that's just 4 mana, -3 right away. Still have Tamiyo on 2 and get value out of her immediately. And then you can start doing the plussing and then go that. This just seems like a nice little value engine.
Yeah.
Not a dominant card. This doesn't look like one of those cards that comes down and just crushes the board state. But
she's better than she looks, but she's not a top-end bomb. So I would give Tamiyo a B+.
B+, I think so, too. A really nice card draw engine for Tamiyo, Collector of Tales. Next is Teferi Time Raveler. I tweeted about this when I first saw it. I said Mana War really has grown up, and boy, these cards are so pushed. 1 white-blue for a 4 loyalty Teferi. Each opponent can cast spells only anytime they can cast a sorcery. So it shuts off your opponent's instance. By default. +1 until your next turn, you may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. Again, that's a very minor effect. It can be cool though, but nothing game breaking. But the -3 is really where it's at. Return up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment to its owner's hand, and you draw a card. So you play this thing on turn 3, bounce their 2-drop, draw a card, and you just set them back a ton, and then, of course, you can start plussing after that.
So 1 blue-white sorcery, return target creature to its owner's hand, draw a card. You would always play.
Yes.
That's Arrester's Admonition, which was, one of the best commons of the last set.
Mm-hmm.
So if you put Teferi at that baseline, I think you get a good idea of how good Teferi is.
Right.
Again, kind of like Tamiyo, not a game-breaking bomb, but if you can play Teferi, bounce something, if they can't attack Teferi, he starts ticking back up. You don't have to worry about combat tricks when Teferi's in play. And if you have Proliferate, you can all of a sudden get a second bounce going if you need to.
Yeah, I really like Teferi at 3 mana here. Though, as you mentioned, we're not talking about a game-dominating bomb. I like a B for Teferi Time Traveler.
I would give Teferi a B.
Next is Time Wipe. 2 white, blue for a sorcery at rare. Return a creature you control to its owner's hand, then destroy all creatures.
Yes, this card is, it's funny because usually the game with Wraths, right, sweepers, is to be like, how do you get your opponent to overextend without putting too much on the board, but you don't want to not play anything because then you'll die or it'll be too obvious. Here, It's just like, nah, just play your best creature, they'll play theirs, then you bounce your creature and kill all theirs.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
So Time Up is an A- only because a lot of the biggest threats are Planeswalkers in this set, and this doesn't deal with them. But still an A-.
Yeah, that's really great. Time Wipe, A-. Next is Tolsimir, friend to wolves, but not friend to you, Louise.
I beat Tolsimir.
Oh, you did beat. You know who's really friendly with
Paulo
this?
had 3.
You know he had 3 Tolsimirs today and 1 yesterday? He had 4 on the weekend?
That's a lot of Tolsimirs.
Tolsimir is really powerful.
It wasn't enough to defeat me.
How did you beat 3? 2 green, white for a 3/3. Now that might set you off a little, right? We're talking about a 5 mana 3/3, but there's more. Tolsimir, when Tolsimir, Friend of Wolves, enters the battlefield, you get Voya, Friend to Elves, a legendary 3/3 green and white wolf creature token. So now you've got 6 power and 6 toughness over 2 creatures, and whenever a wolf, including the one named Voya here, enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 3 life. So now it's 6 power, 6 toughness, and 3 life, and that creature fights up to 1 target creature you don't control, so you can snipe something small off the battlefield. That is a lot of value for Tolsimir.
Yeah, so Tolsimir comes down, Voya eats a 2/2 or a 2/3, or trades for like a 3/3 if you really needed to.
Yeah.
And you gain 3, and you're left with Tolsimir.
Yes.
So that's a lot of stats, a nice fight card, a couple life. Tolsimir is very good.
Yeah, and then there is this trinket text. It is other wolves as well. There's really not much.
If you play like
Arlen's wolf.
Arlen's Wolf or whatever, you can get a fight going.
How did you beat multiple Tolsimirs?
Well,
did you mill him?
I lost the game where 2 came out.
Okay.
And then I won the game where none came out, and I won the game where 1 came out late.
Okay, great.
But on turn 5, this card's like nigh unbeatable.
It is. I like A- for Tolsimir, Friend of Wolves.
I do too.
Fantastic card. Last, a gold card is Widespread Brutality. This card's actually cool. It's 1 black, red for a sorcery at rare. It says amass 2. Then The army you amassed deals damage equal to its power to each non-army creature.
So this is kind of like Massacre Girl.
Yeah.
Is how it's going to play out, especially if you can amass, onto an already big zombie where you have a 3/3 amass token. You're like, play this, everything takes 5.
Yes, except for other armies in this one.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't kill the opposing army because, it's a bunch of zombies.
Friendly fire.
Yeah, it's a bunch of zombies ravaging the countryside.
Right.
And sometimes you're going to end up like using this as to deal 2 to each creature or 3 to each creature, and maybe you'll have an X4 out that'll live.
You can combine it with combat in some way as well. Your bare minimum, though, is amass 2. If you didn't have an army token, you're at least getting that.
Yeah, a 2/2 that deals 2 to everything else. This card's very good.
Yeah, it seems really, really good.
It's kind of like Time Wipe. It's actually very similar if you think about it. Instead of returning a creature, you play a creature.
Right, which is actually better.
Yeah, but it's not quite as reliable on killing things.
Right,
either.
that's the problem, right? Is that Time Wipe for sure kills
so
it.
I still think Widespread Brutality is an A-. It's just a really powerful card.
Yeah, this seems really, really good in this color.
Can we get a couple more A's before we end the set review? Is that possible?
No. No, we cannot. But we got some good cards.
Okay.
They're lands, though. The first one is Blast Zone, and this is a land when it enters a battlefield. It enters a battlefield with a charge counter on it. It taps for colorless mana. You can pay XX and tap it to put X charge counters on it. And you can pay 3 mana, tap it, and sacrifice it to destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost equal to the number of charge counters on it. That is a mouthful. So when you play it, the cost that you're paying here is that it only makes colorless mana. So it won't cast your colorless spells. Then that is a steep cost, especially if you have some intense mana cost or if you're splashing around. It spots you a counter, so you can use it to destroy 1-drops. And limited, that doesn't come up very often. You cannot use it, however, to destroy 0-drops, aka army tokens or any other tokens, because it comes with the counter on it. And then you can sort of slowly grow it at the cost of basically 2 mana per charge counter. And then you have to pay the 3 mana to remove them. What deck wants this?
Any deck that has decent mana.
2 colors, not super intense, and you're okay with it?
Yeah, or you could play it as an 18th land in a deck that would otherwise play 17. Because this is a powerful effect.
It is.
Basically, lands that do extra things are a really good way to get value. Because imagine you play Blast Zone and you tap to cast your spells a few times, and then you eventually charge it up and sack it to kill their 3-drop. You kind of got a 2-for-1 because you got to use the land a bunch of times first.
You did, yeah. That's also a very efficient way to use your draft pick.
Yeah.
Anytime you can take a land that actually makes the cut in your deck, you're effectively getting an extra pick that the other players didn't.
This card can kill things. And so one word of warning, this doesn't come up very often, but if your opponent proliferates, they can up the counters on Blast Zone.
Oh no!
So imagine you have a Blast Zone in play, and your plan is to charge at end of turn up to 4. So you spend your whole turn doing that, and then they play an instant speed proliferate card.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden tick it up one like that.
And then it's out of the range that you wanted.
Yeah.
So here's a real question I have, because I'm sold. I like the card. I think it's fine. It's
not
a bomb.
Do you mostly not have real questions, or
where do we take it?
I basically take Blast Zone
because I feel like I'm never going to actually have this.
I take it below every premier playable or common, or I take it above filler or above replaceable cards, above cards like Spark Reaper or potentially even Herald of the Dread Horde if your deck's looking pretty good.
Okay, this is a similar slot to where I often take sideboard cards.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
that's what this feels like.
Okay. Is everybody else going to take it a little higher than me, and I'm never going to get it?
If they do, they do. But it's, and it's probably got a little cachet because it is, I think, going to be quite good in modern and older formats.
Yeah. The other, of course, thing is that you really should listen to what we said about the mana thing. I mean, if you're playing 3 colors, you're splashing, get this thing
I had a 2-color deck I would not have played it into.
Yeah, okay.
I had a 2-color deck that needed 10 swamps and played 7 plains. As a result, I could not have cut a swamp, and I would not have cut a plains.
No. So be careful with Blast Zone, but it does have, even if it's narrow, a place in the set. I don't know what to call it. Is it a C? Is it a C+?
It's like a C+, but it's weird because...
You have to really have listened to what we said for this one. This is not one where the grade's going to do it justice. Karn's Bastion is next. This is a land at rare that adds colorless, and you can pay 4 mana and tap it to proliferate.
This card's a little better than Blast Zone. Because
I like this.
4 tap, put some +1 counters on your stuff, or make your Planeswalkers a little bit more loyal. I mean, that's awesome. You want to take it probably on par with some of the higher end commons, like around 4th to 6th pick.
Okay.
So I think Karn's Bastion gets like a B-.
B-. Look, this is a powerful ability on a powerful repeatable ability on a land. Last card is Mobilized District. This is a creature land. We haven't had one of these in a little while, and when they pop up, they tend to be very good. It's a land that is rare and taps to add for colorless, but you can pay 4 mana to turn it into a 3/3 citizen creature with vigilance. That's also still a land. And the ability costs 1 less to activate for each legendary creature or planeswalker you control. So sure, we'll take that little bonus part. Maybe it costs 3 every once in a while. But you know what? These lands are really annoying to play against. 4 mana to become a 3/3 is not a great deal, right? That's a lot of mana. But it is powerful when you've run out of things to do or just need it.
Yeah, it's a free slot. I like it a little less than Karn's Bastion, probably a little more than Blast Zone.
Yeah, I agree.
So I still think I would give it a C+. And yeah, I like having these options of these lands. You're not going to play it all the time. You're not going to take them super high. But when you play them, having your lands come up in gameplay is always a nice bonus.
It really is. And just make sure that you can actually accommodate them and not screw up your mana base. It is not worth it to screw up your mana base for any of these 3 lands.
So while we're here, do you think we should just review the Planeswalker deck cards just in case someone wanted to play it?
Yeah, you want to get into Jace Arcane Strategist or Tezzeret Master of the Bridge, whatever that is. 6 mana. I think we should skip those ones. All right. I got to go to bed. You got to go to bed. You've had a long day. You've been playing all day. I've been working all day.
Oh, yeah.
But that was fun. This one might be in the pantheon of most powerful rares we've ever seen in one set.
Yeah, it's funny because it's really worth talking about the use cases for all of these rares. There's some special things going on, and there's some like Bolsa Citadel or Command the Dread Horde, which I think are non-obviously good but are quite powerful. So it's really good to hear about them. I don't know how many listeners needed to know that Roalesque, Finale of Eternity, and Oketra are just A's, but here's where we are,
Yeah, and this is the world we live in. The real question going forward is, how much do these dominate the games, right? Like, is this going to be one of those sets that we look back at and say, oh boy, remember that when they printed that set? We were just talking about Fate Reforged. It still stands out to me as like this really bomb-heavy format. So we'll keep an eye on that moving forward, but that is going to do it for the Rare and Mythic Rare set review here for War of the Spark. We want to thank our sponsor channel, Fireball.com, for their support of the show. You can go to CFB to order or pre-order War of the Spark whenever it is that you happen to be listening to this. Also, you can sell your cards back to them. This is something I like to mention, especially around the when a new set comes out, because you might have your eye on a new box of War of the Spark to get a draft together with your friends, and we know it's expensive. Magic's an expensive hobby. One of the ways that you can help mitigate that is by selling your cards back to Channel Fireball, because if you do so and you trade them in for store credit, they will give you a 30% bonus. And wow, what a great way to take some of those rares that you're not going to use anyway and turn it into a box of War of the Spark or whatever other sets you may need. Head over to channelfireball.com to do that whenever you have enough cards to sell. If you want to find us on social media, I'm Marshall_LR and Luis is LSV. A lot of people saying hi while we're here in England, and we always appreciate that. Hopefully everybody's having a good time over at the GP. I haven't really got a chance to go over there yet, but there is one happening right next to our Mythic Championship. Thanks so much to everybody who said hi today in the building. If you want to find more links and everything related to the podcast, it's lrcast.com. That's going to do it for this one. We'll be back with first impressions next week. We'll see you then.
So I don't know. It probably didn't come through in the show, but Marshall and I are pretty bummed right now. So we're about 3 hours ago or so, Yu Watanabe got DQ'd from the Pro Tour for having marked Tron lands. And look, we don't exactly know what the outcome of this is going to be, what further things are going to happen. We don't know what other information is going to come out, but like, for those of you who don't follow the pro scene, Yu getting DQ'd, he's one of the top 10 players of all time. Mm-hmm. He's someone I always was impressed by his play. I was he was one of the people I thought was awesome to play against. It was just always fun to play against him. He's a very good sport. He's just a true master of the game. Marshall, I'm sure you love covering him.
I do. He is so, So I feel so weird right now, man.
Yeah, because look, if he cheated, then he should be disqualified. He should face a suspension. He should face all of those things, whatever the appropriate penalties are. I'm not excusing that, but man, it really is a bummer that he got DQ'd from this tournament. It just sucks.
And the way I found out was particularly crazy. In fact, I'm holding a piece of paper in front of me right now. I do the top 8 announcement at the Mythic Championships where we're on live on the stream, and I'm about to announce it. And this was one of those situations where we had what we call a clean cut. All of the players had either taken an intentional draw into top 8 or had won a clean win-in that gave them enough match points to be completely clear of the next player. So I already knew what the top 8 was before I went up to announce. And I actually even made a joke and said, oh man, I like the ones that have an unclean, not a clean cut because there's a sweat and it's more fun to announce it. And they handed me the piece of paper, just one of the people from the production team. And I got up there and I looked down and it wasn't a clean cut. And I thought, oh no, like there was a name on the bottom here that wasn't supposed to be on here. And I thought, well, they must have handed me the wrong, like maybe this is from round 15, like somebody printed out the wrong thing. So I'm about to go on the air. So I go running out looking for somebody to give me something. And they said, no, did you hear the announcement? And I said, no, I don't have a headset right now. I'm not watching the stream. And they said, okay, well, just sit tight and you'll hear about it or whatever. And I heard afterwards. And that's why this piece of paper that I'm holding in my hand was incorrect in my mind, is because one name was missing from it that I didn't notice. And it was Yuya's. And then, next thing you know, there's a camera on me and I have to start announcing the top 8. I, of course, just try to do my best to be excited for everybody that was there. But I got to admit, I felt a little shell shocked in that moment. So.
Yeah, and again, we're gonna let things play out the way they're gonna play out. We don't have any. We have no influence on this, but I don't know about you. I'm hoping this is somehow a mistake or a misunderstanding. I think if he got DQ'd and the judges are pretty convinced that he deserved to be DQ'd, that's maybe less likely than you'd think. But man, it sucks. So
it really does. It's a weird world we live in, man.
Yeah, it is.